And I'm Guy. And this is your home for everything Alberta independence, broadcasting live 6 days a week from 5 p.m. to usually 6:30. Today we'll go a little bit later. We also have a noon to 1 o'clock show most days, Monday through Friday.
Hello, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate all of you joining, especially the new subscribers. So hello and welcome. Thank you for being here, but also the older and first ones as well. What am I saying? Please do subscribe. It really does help us out. Clearly, I'm an expert at this. Please subscribe. It really does help us out. And we have sections for the show. We read all your comments at the end of each segment, or as many as we can get to. But we do prioritize super chats, so we pause the whole show no matter what we're talking about when one of those comes in.
Well, and Nat might be a little bit off today. She already streamed for 3 hours. She did a guest appearance on WDW Pro there.
Yes, every other Thursday you can find me on WDW Pro to talk all things entertainment. And today was a small crew, so I got to talk a bit more.
Entertainment and culture war stuff, I think. Yes. They sneak it in there.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go into some breaking news. And that's Danielle's. Oh, maybe we'll read comments first.
Yes.
My bad.
Edward, hello. Thank you for being here. Always here. So thank you so much. Michael Drader says, greetings, fellow Albertsicans. And I like that one. So yes, thank you so much. Harmony, hello, says, good evening from what seems to be geoengineering chemtrails, but we are tough. Yes, we are. Also says strong resilience and spirit. Edward says, great interview today. Thank you so much. And thank you for reminding me. Yes, our interview with Clyde Do Something, which we were really glad and surprised that he accepted that we would interview him, is up today. So go watch it if you haven't watched it yet. It's a little bit lacking in views, but it was very interesting. So go watch that one.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We asked him straight off the bat, does he support Alberta independence? He gave a firm yes, and exactly why. It's important that we have national content creators that have large platforms like that supporting Alberta independence. Hopefully we can bring some more in, because it really seems like a lot of national content creators don't want to bring up the issue because they don't want to fracture their audience. I also brought that question up to him. So
Harmony says, I'm the older but young at heart. I'm sure you are. And Edward says, Albertsicans, I like that. I like that too. Errol Scravaland says, every province needs to start a petition about separating from Canada. That's all there is to it. We're not going to get anything done in this country with a Liberal government. He's going to destroy, and I'll add everything. But yes, exactly.
And we're going to get into some meat and potatoes on what's going on with the petition, because Danielle Smith did hold that press conference. I grabbed a bunch of clips from that thing so we can kind of talk about it and break it down. She has put the barrier of entry the lowest of any other province. So she has helped in some way. I didn't like a lot of her statements today. That being said, we'll kind of get into it in a minute.
But I also think as long as every single province doesn't realize that, and the actual conservatives or people that at least realize there's a problem, then not the lemmings that just go along and just watch mainstream media. If the people that do see that there is an issue that should be fixed, and they don't realize that the only way is to actually separate because Canada is too big of a country that they want to control even further and further, then I don't see much hope in it either. That's why I speak so much about Pierre Poilievre and about the Conservatives as well, and conservative content creators that don't even want to touch Alberta independence.
Well, Alberta independence was first to move. They have a huge advantage here. The federal government really wasn't ready for this. The problem with Saskatchewan, Quebec, and these other provinces, the federal government is starting to mount a game plan and put major roadblocks in their way by trying to federalize a lot of land with the 30 by 30 program.
And Justin GP, hello, thank you for being here, says, hiya folks, snowy day in the bush, but I'll see if anyone wants to sign. It's still snowing. It's April.
That's Alberta for you.
Yeah. Troglodyte says, Glenn Beck put a video in Canada describing the train wreck that we are very well. Yeah.
Yeah, and Glenn Beck is constantly talking about Canada and using Canada as a warning for the Americans that this is not the path you want to go down. You don't want to go down the path of socialism and eventually communism, and Canada is well on its way.
And full and total control by your government.
And he's also interviewed Keith Wilson a few times, so fantastic on Blaze TV and Glenn Beck there.
Yeah, and I also do hope more and more people in the US do start, more big content creators do start speaking about it, because it is a great, and Steven Crowder is another one, but he is Canadian after all, but it is a great way and a great example for anybody to use of what you don't want the US and the path you don't want the US to go down.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to start talking about it and believing it when it is firmly on the ballot, and they're avoiding it at this point, and that's why it's not getting a lot of international coverage. But it's a huge point in history when you have a vote to actually leave a country.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't know it's happening or have doubts that it will happen.
Or have erroneous information, I will say. And just before we go to the breaking news, Michael Drader says, he's El Mexican, she's El Mexican, I'm El Mexican, we're El Mexicans, won't you be El Mexican too? Exactly. Maybe it can be like an exchange program where people can come during the winter months where it's warmer and then we go over in the summer months. People already do that anyways. But now let's actually get into the breaking news, talking about the Danielle Smith press conference where she said she was going to be talking about the referendum and did almost anything but. She
talked about the referendum. The problem
not the one we care about.
She only brought the issues up that we care about, which is the referendum for separation when reporters asked her questions. But there were quite a few questions about it, so that was good.
So let's go to breaking news.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
And as we were saying, starting with from Juno News saying Premier Danielle Smith rejects adding an independence question to the ballot unless it comes through a citizen-led initiative. Should not be a government-sponsored question, she said, reiterating her position that Alberta should remain in Canada.
Well, and I got 3 clips here so we can get a good understanding of exactly what was said about the referendum for independence. Nobody cares about these other 9 questions. That's just pure and simple. She's trying to make it look like National Canada or she is doing a good job and maybe we can stay with Canada. That's not the case. Now's the time to really put pressure on Danielle Smith. We don't want to let her think she cannot put this question on the ballot and there won't be consequences. There will be consequences at the voting booth if this question somehow doesn't make it on the October 19th referendum there.
And also because all the other questions she even made a website for that are coming from the government all get fixed as soon as Alberta becomes independent. So it's almost like they're moot points. But I do agree with her that it should be citizen-led and the government can't itself say we want to separate from ourselves in a way. But let's see what she said and then delve into it.
And you mentioned a national conversation. Kind of want to address the elephant in the room in my perspective, the question of independence. When you talk to people, whether they be politicians or voters, whether it be in Alberta or outside of Alberta, when you talk about a referendum in the fall, most people already assume that independence is going to be on the ballot. Why not just do it? Just choose a question that is clear, put it on the ballot right now so that conversation can actually start. You can have a yes and a no camp. Why not do it today?
Well, because my position is that we should remain in Canada. That's the position of our government. We believe that we should assert sovereignty within a united Canada. So that is our policy. And so others are putting forward a proposal that would have a different position. And so it would not be a government-sponsored question. It would be one that would be a citizen-initiated response. And so we're waiting to see if the court will affirm that and allow the signature collection to go to be validated. I don't want to prejudge what the court's going to do. I believe they're going to be making their decision in May.
Yeah, and if that's going to be some kind of excuse later on, I can't do anything because of the court, that's not going to be acceptable at the ballot box, period. We need to let her know that now. I praise her when she does good things, and she's done a lot of good things. But if that question doesn't make it on that referendum on October 19th, there's going to be hell to pay. Do you have anything there? Because I got a lot more to say.
Well, I was going to say, not an actual threat, but there will be metaphorical hell to pay.
No, there's going to be hell to pay at the ballot box, meaning she's probably going to be unelected there. The majority of her base are people that support independence. Mm-hmm. She's had a fantastic line so far when she says people have grievances and we need democracy. People want to have their voice because the federal government isn't allowing people to have a voice with the way they're playing politics with all these floor crossers. So I've praised her the way she's handled this overall. It's been a different strategy than Poilievre. Mm-hmm. That being said, she's opening the door if the courts keep delaying the stay, meaning they say another month stay. And I think she said January 10th, June 10th would be the last date. So that means the court can just stay to June 10th and then no referendum question. I'm not for that whatsoever. There needs to be pressure put on her now. So she also left the door open for a second possibility, though. And I think that's the possibility she kind of wants to go down if the court keeps trying to stay this. And that was the other referendum question of the 405,000 signatures.
The forever Canadian one.
If that's the route she has to go to get that question on there, I'm okay with it. I would have preferred to have our question. But there is a big hole with in that strategy, and that is they've certified those signatures, but maybe they relook at those signatures once they're going to put it on the ballot, and they say, actually, there's a lot of fake signatures on here, and we have to uncertify this. We're sorry.
But I will also say we do continue to see that coming from Keith Wilson and Mitch and a bunch of other people, they do continue to say that they have contingencies and that if it continues to be state or there's other ways in which the government, both federal or provincial, try to stop the actual referendum question from getting on, there are other mechanisms that they've already thought about.
Yeah, there's definitely other mechanisms, but right now for people, I think they need to voice their discontent with Danielle Smith. I praise her all the time, but we do need to let her know we're going to put pressure on her, and we want that on the ballot on October 19th. Because if we don't voice our opinion now, she might just think, oh, I can put it next year, or I can delay it, or I can do this, or I can do that. No, October 19th is the date we want to see that question on that referendum.
But I do actually like how she said we as a government can't propose that, or we can't put that on ourselves on the ballot. It has to come from the citizens. And in a way, in a even metaphorical way, it makes it even better for her standing up for democracy when she does let the referendum question go, because yes, the government cannot decide to leave itself in a way. And she does have to toe the line of sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. But if her actions coincide with that, then that is where I would be worried as well.
Yeah, but she didn't bring up democracy like she did before, and she didn't voice the grievances that Albertans had. And I think this was a real opportunity for that, and people would have loved to hear that. If she's going soft on Alberta independence, we need to raise our voices.
Mm-hmm. But from Courtney Thoreau saying, when asked if the Forever Canada referendum and the separatist question would both be on the October ballot, Premier Danielle Smith says they are waiting on court guidance on the separatist petition first.
Oh, I guess we have to see what the court determines in May, because they're the ones who have asked for this one has validated signatures, so that's one thing I would say. But we'd have to wait and see what the court has to say about that particular question, and they've asked for the validation to be paused until the judge has a chance to issue her report. So that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting to see what her guidance is.
Thank you. And that'll.
Oh, I guess we have to see what the court.
She managed to put the other 9 questions on there. It's no problem to add the most important question as the first question. She's really giving political answers here, and I hope she doesn't turn to a political shill when it comes to this Alberta referendum.
Oh, she put the other 9 questions because those are coming on the part of the government. Again, from a mandate they all had already got from their own voters, so it is also a moot point that she's trying to make a referendum on that. She could just be taking action and all the things that she put on the referendum. However, again, I will say I do agree with her that it can't come, the independence question couldn't come from her government itself.
Well,
so it's out, and now the court has stopped her from being able to even put it on the referendum.
Well, it can come from her government, and eventually it may have to come from her government if they keep staying it, and the other petition firmly doesn't want that question on there. Then it's going to come up to her to not be a politician, but be a leader at a certain point and say the majority of people within Alberta want this question on that referendum.
I'm thinking of legally or even maybe constitutionally, can she put it as her being the premier of Alberta? Can she put it as coming from herself or like the other 9 questions?
100%.
That's my question.
100%, absolutely. But it's going to take a lot of backbones. No other politician in Canada would even consider it. But it's going to only happen if we put pressure. We see the last time she tried to muddy the waters with the 9 questions. Mm-hmm. A lot of pressure was put on her. Almost within hours, people were making videos saying, we don't like these 9 questions. We don't want them to muddy the waters with the separatist or the independence question on the ballot. About a month later or a few weeks later, she came out and she kind of unmuddied the waters by saying the independence question will be on a separate ballot on the top. We're going to count that one first. If it's a go-ahead for independence, then the other 9 questions won't be tallied, which I liked and I praised her for it.
But now she muddied it again, and she even made a website for the other 9 questions. So I ask again, where does she stand now that she's giving clearly a bit more preference, at least until the courts decide, to her 9 questions and the questions from her government that, again, were mandated by and for the people that she already had. than the independence one.
Well, she knows her political future rides on this one question of Alberta independence, and not necessarily that she sides with it, but the fact that she gets it on that ballot one way or another. As long as she gets it on the ballot and the people get to vote on this, people will continue to support her no matter which way it kind of goes. But if she politicians this thing out of existence or delays it past October 19th and it somehow this disappears and Carney's able to put roadblocks in front of this, you're going to have a lot of unhappy people, not just in Alberta, but a lot of people that support Alberta independence outside of the country and in other provinces.
True. But also from Courtney Thoreau saying, quote, Premier Smith claims 450,000 people who signed the Forever Canada petition wanted a sovereignty referendum put to voters. Adds that Lukaszuk has changed his mind and now wants a legislative pathway instead of a referendum because now he sees that it might be turned the other way around for him as well.
I mean, that's what the committee is looking at right now. So the box he checked, if you go and look at the document that I put up, it says a legislative or policy proposal required a signature of 10% of electors on post-election day list. And the alternative was a constitutional referendum proposal that talked about a 20% threshold. That was the distinction before we made them both the same. But if you look at how he structured this, he said the applicant is motivated by the fact that Alberta's separation from Canada is being actively discussed. Since a referendum appears to be imminent anyway, it should be objective and not directed by special interest groups. Separation will threaten the Canadian as well as the Alberta economy, the personal wealth of Albertans, the Canadian citizenship rights of Alberta residents, the treaty rights of our First Nations, and have many other serious and negative consequences. We believe the majority of Alberta residents are loyal Canadians and opposed to any form of separation. Therefore, we, as represented by the signatory and applicant below, propose a referendum on the following question. Do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? So we had 450,000 people sign onto this expecting a referendum. So I know that the proponent has changed his mind afterwards and he just wants it to go to legislature, but that's what we're having to talk to Elections Alberta about, the justice officials about, because it does seem to me that this is kind of a legal process initiated in a legal way with precise language that people signed on a certain expectation. And so we're just trying to get some direction from the committee on that. They've had their first meeting and I'm looking forward to seeing what they come back with.
Well, and I'm going to say this, that was probably the best news of the press conference, and a lot of people kind of skipped over it. I think she's trying to open the door to use that Forever Canada petition as the way to get this on the ballot. That way it's not on her back. She can say Canadian nationalists are the ones that want to pose this question. So it looks like she understands that this stay on our petition, they may just continue to stay it. And if that is a possibility, she brought that document specifically. I didn't see many other documents at that press conference, but that was one specific document she brought so she could hold it up. And she's opening the door to at least hopefully get a question on that ballot about whether you want to stay or whether you want to leave Canada.
Yeah, because I'm guessing Lukaszuk's now, like why he's backing out is, well, if the actual independence petition doesn't go through, but mine goes through and then everybody votes, no, we don't want to stay in Canada, then everybody's going to look at me that did sign my petition, the ones that weren't Mickey Mouse or invented people or dead people. And they're going to say, hey, it worked out a complete opposite way because the sentiment was actually for separation.
Yeah.
Independence.
The big problem the reason I don't want to go that path is because I know those signatures aren't good. There's I've been researching the cottage industry of petition signing, and it is huge. They usually only get about 5% of what they put in, and it's these NGOs and other companies that come in and typically will put a lot of fake signatures on there. And if that thing is re-looked at, which it very well might be at that point, he could even come out and say, I actually didn't have the signatures. They're not real. Any number of things could happen if we go that route. The safest route is for that stay to be unstayed and for our question to go forward. That being said, at least she's opening the door to something else here, but we do need to put pressure on Danielle Smith now so it's completely clear to her if that question's not on that October 19th referendum, people are going to be upset and it's going to reflect in the next election.
Yes. But now we'll go to comments, and then we'll go into the petition itself and how that's going, because it's coming to an end, but also switching over to campaigning, and this is not over yet. Harmony says, yep, I noticed the feds are placing roadblocks in the way like C9 and C22 and a bunch of other ones. And this is just the beginning. Yesterday, we showed how they're starting to profile content creators and say that it's AI, what do they call propaganda. And they did a whole bunch of different pieces and different videos, articles, etc., about how the Alberta independence people are all AI generated, which is not true. They showed the Fringe there. The Fringe responded and said, hey, I'm not AI and you owe me a retraction or at least an apology, or maybe he'll sue them. I hope so if he can. But that's just the beginning. And the name calling was just the beginning. It's going to get a lot uglier in my opinion. And people have to be ready for that, for the things that they might try to do, be it Emergencies Act or going after people, going after content creators or people within the movement that are the bigger names as well. So,
well, we have a good grassroots movement here. We have over 7,000 volunteers that went forward with canvassing that want to stay involved in the next phase of this thing, which is the campaigning phase of it. I'm not that concerned with whatever roadblocks the federal government wants to bring in, as long as we can get a question on the referendum. That's the important thing here. And we really need to start focusing on putting pressure on politicians to make sure that is on the October 19th referendum. As long as politicians know it's going to be popular to not necessarily support Alberta independence, but to at least say we want to have democracy in Alberta and we're going to make sure the people get to voice their opinion. That's how the successful path for a politician in Alberta is going to look going forward, I think.
Yes, and Justin GP says, I liked how Danielle called out the immigration costs and showed everyone that Tommy, the commie's petition was an actual referendum petition. True. But again, all of the immigration stuff and all the other things that she wants, she even made a website for the other referendum questions, those can all get fixed if the first question of should Alberta remain in Canada or et cetera, it goes first.
Yeah, she wants to put together a national platform where I'm fixing these 9 questions of immigration, this, and that. A lot of those things, even if the referendum does go our way, which it will go our way for those other 9 questions, nobody actually cares about. Oh God, where was I going with that?
I don't know.
You can step in for a minute.
Harmony says, are too many people trusting the current government in Alberta?
Yeah, and we should plan for worst case scenario. And worst case scenario is Danielle Smith puts a knife in our back. Now, I praise her because she does a lot of good things. But again, the only thing that actually matters is that referendum question. These other 9 questions don't matter whatsoever. She has a mandate to already go ahead with the other 9 questions.
That's the thing.
She's using the other 9 questions to kind of distract from the one question we want.
And to say, no, see, we can fix certain things if you vote on it, even though you already kind of voted on it because you voted for me. Michael Drader says, not federally anyway. Ghost of a Chance says, no thanks, Danielle. The damage is too deep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Errol says, Danielle Smith is going to get paid off in the end. You watch.
Well, that's what we need to kind of...
I think the more obvious one is Polyev.
Yeah, absolutely. But we just need Danielle Smith to hold off from that payout until that referendum question is on the ballot. Yeah. If she wants to stab us in the back after that, she has a lot less moves she can do.
True. Edward says, we can fire you, Danny. That sounded like, what's that movie?
Chucky?
No, with Danny, the little boy that's in the tricycle.
Oh, The Shining.
The Shining. We can fire
well, and it's not
you,
Chucky.
Danny.
It's not Chucky here in Mexico. It's Chucky.
Yeah, they call it Chucky here. Well, they call you Gooey here as well.
Chucky is very popular in Mexico.
For some reason. Troglodyte says she's keeping her options open in case it doesn't happen. She's a politician after all. And again, I do tend to agree with that part, and also with the part where she does explain, as a government, we can't choose and decide to separate from ourselves, from the government.
I completely understand her position.
But you can follow democracy.
I completely understand her position, and she is leaving a door open to make sure a question can be put on the ballot with the other canvasser question that was put on there. That being said, it's our job, the grassroots movement that want independence, to put pressure on the politicians like Danielle Smith when they come out with politician-style answers at a press conference, when really the only thing we want to know and the only thing we wanted to see was movement on the referendum question. And a lot of people were hoping that she was going to have the backbone to just outright put the question on there. Now, that didn't happen, but there has been a door open for a second route for her to get the question on in case the stay isn't taken off.
And Mitch and Keith, again, have said that there are other mechanisms. They're looking into another contingencies that they have planned. So it's not about panicking, I would say. Sam, hello, says, without Danielle, we would not have a referendum, people. And and we praise her for that. And we continue to say that bit as well, that and in the past, when she's been questioned about it, she has said, I want to uphold democracy and the will of the people, which is what politicians should be doing in a democracy, as they like to call it.
Yeah, well, the only reason we even got the petition going is because the threshold was lowered. That being said, just because she lowered the threshold and we got to where we need to get to, if she puts a roadblock or doesn't put that question on the October 19th ballot, I'm not forgiving that, and a lot of people aren't. She can't just do one thing that helps it out so she can become more popular and then take that thing away at the end.
But it could be also, 4D chess.
Yeah, there's
We
any
see
number.
that a lot nowadays in politics.
There's any number of things that could be happening,
Exactly.
and I'm not being too hard on her, but what I am saying is pressure needs to be applied now.
Yes. Dara Robinson says, before everyone craps on Premier Danielle Smith, she is walking a political tightrope, but she needs to keep repeating the People's Initiative will be heard. The People's Initiative will be heard. And that's kind of what I agree with as well now.
Yeah, I agree with that, but she didn't say that at the press conference, and that's one of the problems I had. I would have been a lot more okay with her answers today if she would have just addressed it straightforwardly, saying we want democracy to go forward. I'm not supporting Alberta independence. I am a nationalist, but the people will have a voice, unlike in national Canada, because we have democracy here in Alberta, and Albertans have grievances. I wanted to hear something like that. I didn't hear it, so.
Yeah. Harmony says, oh, interesting. I tried to join the UCP party today and yesterday, but I couldn't get through.
Very interesting.
Yes. Again, let's just keep it at interesting, but let's not forget that maybe that's been happening. Let us know if anybody else tried recently to join and if you were able to.
Well, and we've made it very public that people from the independence movement want to join the UCP, so we have a lot more say and a lot more control in what happens there. And maybe they want to stop that or cut that off at the head. I'm not saying that's the case. It's just one person that can get through at this point, but we'll see what happens.
Sam says, exactly. Be careful not to put Nenshi in power. Be very careful. Yeah, and that too, exactly. Harmony says, I heard that Rachel Notley chose the director or leader of Elections Alberta. Also interesting. Again, NDP. Michael Drader says...
Well, and I will say one other thing. Danielle Smith is doing great work, but she's taking these teeny tiny steps, which is great for Alberta. She's trying to build a safety net on a national level. The problem is Mark Carney now has a majority. He's erecting a cage and taking giant leaps forward on his agenda. So even if she is able to get something carved out here or carved out there, in the long run, I think Carney's going to be able to shut a lot of that down. And that's why independence is the way forward. The safety net she's trying to build, I think in the end will eventually be destroyed. It will look good in the short term, but in the long term, I think Mark Carney is going to be able to hamstring all of that.
And it should be looked exactly as that, only that, a safety net, a just in case, not the solution, because that isn't a solution to the real issues that the people have grievances over.
Well, and the referendum on independence needs to go forward on October 19th, because if it doesn't, a lot of people in Alberta are going to lose hope, and a lot of people are already talking about moving to the United States. So we need to really put pressure now to make sure that thing is on that October 19th ballot.
And Beulah says, watching from Alberta, Canada, thank you. And thank you for being here as well. Sam says, Smith is hellbent on letting the people decide. She will not allow an MLA-only vote, which is what Lukaszuk wants.
Yeah, I really hope so. She's also hell-bent on an MOU that has all kinds of strings attached to it. I understand, again, she's a national politician, but if she lets democracy go forward on this one, she's going to be one of the most popular conservatives in Canada. I could see her...
She's going to make history.
She's going to make history just by letting democracy go forward, not even by supporting Alberta independence. And a lot of people say it's up to 80% of her base are independence supporters. She's going to be able to guarantee... her future political career, no matter what, within the National Conservative Party or within Alberta, whatever she wants to do. So.
Justin GP says, exactly, we're getting a signature and she can wash her hands off it.
Read that again.
Justin GP says, exactly, we are getting a signature and she can wash her hands off of it, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Sam says, the only side Danielle is on is the side of making damn sure the people's voices are heard. And if she continues down that path and down that line and does everything she can to uphold that democracy that she so says she cares about, then I won't doubt her
We also need
at all, even if she continues to say a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. But if she says, I want to make sure the people's voices are heard, then I think that proves a lot more than her little slogan. Go.
You can keep reading. I forgot what I was going to say there. You kept talking.
Well, before the show, he was telling me, oh, you have to talk more. You have to talk slower. Now I'm talking slower and more, and he forgets.
Okay. Let's keep it going here.
Sarah Robinson says the Kazakh signatures were never verified, no photo ID, and no canvassers were certified. But it's known the Premier's office is keeping very close attention on the independence collection numbers.
Yeah.
Sam says, what is wrong with that? With what? Oh, with making sure the people's voices are heard. And Sam says, we can fire you, Danny, and do what? Install Nenshi. And that's also the issue, that if Danielle does leave before any of the referendum stuff is even solidified, then who comes in?
I don't care who comes in. Either we get an independence vote or we don't. Yes. And even right now, because of the stay in the court, hopefully that's lifted next month. That's the big hope from Danielle Smith. That's the big hope from the independence movement. But if that stays on, or they keep extending it, the only real pressure point we have is Danielle Smith to say, you're going to have to stand up and put either our question or the other referendum question on that ballot for independence. So this is why I'm so emphatic on putting pressure on Danielle Smith right now, because outside of that judge, Danielle Smith is the only person we can really pressure, and we don't want to pressure the judge because it's going to look like judicial interference.
Yes. Mihai Smith says Smith must be replaced ASAP before she will do more harm to Alberta independence. But again, and I do concur with Sam on that one, where if you remove Smith, who has been at least walking that tightrope and saying, well, democracy, listen to the people's voices, then who comes out? Who comes after her?
There's no reason to fire her over one little press conference. She still opened another door to at least get the other referendum question on there for independence. So I'm not jumping to any kind of conclusions like that. But what I am saying is, I understand she's a national politician, but pressure on her is not going to hurt Alberta independence.
Yeah.
It worked the last time when she started muddying the waters with the 9 questions.
Jesse GP says, or is she letting those last 4 questions marinate so that people understand the Constitution needs to be open in order to change it, which won't happen. That way, the public will be educated about how we are doomed to no matter what, and our only choice is independence.
Well, that's hopeful thinking.
They will understand that once they realize her last 4 questions cannot be implemented. They, as in the electorate, because most of the electorate doesn't understand the constitutional law requirements for change.
Yeah, but there hasn't been a real campaign to educate the public, and it's hard to get that idea into the public's head that she's putting those 4 questions on because they can't be changed. We're so focused on Alberta independence. Maybe there does need to be a little bit of a campaign about those 4 questions, and that no matter how the answers come out, there's no way to actually change it.
Yeah. And again, we're going into campaign season. We will be trying to do our part in talking about all these issues as well, trying to bring on people that are way smarter than us to talk about these issues as well. As I always say, I know less than I know more. And so I like it when all of you tell us in the chat what's happening as well, and when we can bring in people to interview and have their opinions as well, because the more information we can spread out there during this pre-referendum campaigning season, I think the better it'll come out.
Yeah, and it's very important that we do voice we do have the stance so Danielle Smith can hear it, that we don't need her to support Alberta independence. We just need her to get that question on that October 19th ballot. If it doesn't go our way, it doesn't go our way. We'll continue to support her as long as she gets that question on that October 19th ballot. She doesn't have to support independence. She has to support democracy.
Exactly. Sam says, yes, just damned if we do, damned if we don't. But independence, like the only answer to all of this is independence.
Absolutely. And let's not get disheartened by one press conference that happened one time, because she did open other doors and give other options in case the court continues to stay the referendum question.
Yes. Silverfeet says, in Mexico, Chucky is Irving Lozano. Yes. That's a very deep cut, but yes, Yes, I'll repeat. Dara Robinson says, hit the like button, everyone. Yes, and we are trying to get to 100 likes per stream because that really does help us out and help the stream out to get out to more people.
And we're getting really close to 2,500 subscribers.
Yes.
So if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe.
And please do subscribe if you're not. Daryl says, Alberta Chief Electoral Officer is appointed through a formal process involving the Lieutenant Governor in Council, because they were debating who it was and
Well,
if it might have been NDP involved.
Well, and I will say this. I trust Danielle Smith a lot more than I trust the judge that put the stay on this thing. I think it's far more likely the judge will continue to stay this thing, and Danielle Smith will either get our question on there or potentially get the other, oh God, what's the other referendum ballot called?
Forever Canadian.
The Forever Canada
Okay.
question on there.
Sam says 2 weeks from now, we will know where the battle begins. A lot happening in the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And if she
debates.
extends the stay on that question in court, we're really going to have to put pressure on Danielle Smith at that point. But it's going to be a lot easier for her because she can say the federal government is muddying the waters in the court system with the stay. So that gives her a little bit of political cover to push the other question forward.
And I do want to get through all this section of questions just because they all have to do with that conference. And I know people are having a lot of conversations and feelings and issues and opinions. So I do want to hear them all out. We're almost done though. Bula says, I've been watching you guys for a few weeks. Thank you so much. And says, I'd love to know where you are living and did you get work? I don't know what you mean by that, but I mean this, I guess. But we currently live in Mexico City. I am from Mexico City. I lived in Canada for 13 years in Vancouver, BC, the insane asylum that it is, right smack dab in the middle of it in downtown Vancouver, where I met the guy, and he is Canadian. He lived a little bit of his life in the US, but was in Canada afterwards. And we escaped during the Trudeau regime to come back. Well, me to come back to Mexico, you to come live for the first time, because we didn't see another way out. And now with Alberta independence, we are seeing that spark of hope, which is why we are throwing all our support behind it. And we want to continue to talk about it because it's basically parallel to all the reasons why we decided to leave Canada.
Yeah, I grew up half my life in Canada, half in the United States. I was born in Canada, but I think that time I spent in the United States, especially when I was younger in the school system, freedom and independence is really grilled into you. And I think that's why I have a strong streak of freedom and independence in my heart and in my soul.
It used to be drilled into.
Yeah, it used to be. And these days, I'm a bit older. So yeah.
The public school system in the States is pretty bad as well. Don't really care about freedom anymore, unfortunately. Justin GP says, I meant we were getting a petition and she can wash her hands off it by allowing either petition to go through. True. And then, I mean, I don't want to get to that point because again, both Mitch and Keith have said that there are mechanisms and other things that they can do. Well, she
can also potentially be kicked out of the UCP if she outright supports independence. Pierre Poilievre literally said if there are any premiers or anybody in the National Conservative Party, he'd kick them out. So she does have to walk a tightrope. That being said, I'm not going to excuse everything away because if we do, it gives her an easy path to just kind of politician her way out of this.
True. But I was going to say something through it. But hopefully we don't get to the other referendum question being the one that they eventually put on, because then the education campaign would be completely backwards and you'd have to be going for a negative instead of a positive, and it could muddy the waters a lot more.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be one way out.
We're going to know next month a lot. If she extends that stay on our petition question, then she's going to try, the judge is going to continue to try to extend it to the point where it doesn't make the October 19th referendum. So
Edward says, I hear you, Sam. Never Nenshi. No, that should be part of the campaign as well. Never Nenshi. Sam says, I do admire your stance, guy. It is the stance that our movement needs.
Yeah. And we just have to make sure that we're putting Alberta independence first and not making excuses for other politicians or other people, even if we do like them. And I do like Danielle Smith overall. But if she steps out of line when it comes to independence, I'm going to call it out every time.
Sam says, Never Notley is now Never Nenshi. Well, at least it's NN. Billa says, okay, that answers the question about the work part. Good luck. Thank you. And Glenn Gunn says, sorry for being late. Danielle will get the votes dumped on her desk no matter what. She can't ignore that. Her hand will be forced.
Oh, there'll be massive protest outside her office, outside of her house, all over the province if this thing doesn't make the October 19th ballot. This question or the Forever Canada question.
And Rusty, hello, says Smith. Smith is a bad Fed, I will say. She's controlled opposition and a parasite. Her only job here is to torpedo our freedom. Look at the website we paid for. It's complete propaganda, not unbiased at all.
Yeah, and we'll kind of see what happens. Her political future, at least in Alberta, is completely reliant on democracy and her allowing that on the question. I'm not going to call her a Fed to this point. Pierre Poilievre looks like controlled opposition now, and I don't like the way he's come out so fervently against Alberta independence. So,
But now let's actually start talking about the petition itself, as it is rounding to an end. People are turning in their canvasser badges and their signatures. So let's see what's going on with that.
And what's going on. We're about to enter the Stay Free Alberta section, and the Stay Free Alberta section is going to stay on the show. So it's not just about the petition.
No.
It's also about the campaigning that's coming up.
Yes, of course.
Free old Alberta, where the roots run deep and the money trees grow.
And starting with one of our favorite canvassers, Marty. Marty says, I'm handing in my canvassing badge. I share some thoughts on my canvassing experience and the ongoing fight to achieve Alberta independence. We all have a role. Stop waiting for others to step up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to play this. This came out yesterday or the day before. And I just wanted to again say thank you to all the canvassers. And Marty is indicative of what a lot of canvassers have done.
All right, quick video. I'm on my way right now. I got to go hand in my canvassing badge. And it's just a reality. We had until May 2nd to collect signatures, and the Elections Alberta was gracious and gave Mitch until the 4th, but the signatures have to be aggregated, collected, sent up to Bonnyville. So, in all reality, we got to stop collecting signatures shortly. For me, the reality is I can't go out tomorrow because I got other commitments. And then I'm helping some of the kids move this weekend.
And just pause it for a minute. We'll continue to play it. But I will say, this is just a reminder. If you are a canvasser, do turn in those sheets and do turn in your badge. In case, I know when it came to when they were gathering at the midway point to make sure they had the 179,000 signatures, 76,000 signatures, a lot of people weren't aware to turn in their sheets.
So I'm done canvassing. Okay. Great experience. Thanks to everyone who came out to sign. Thanks to everyone who came out just to show some support, to the other volunteers, the people who built flags, stands for us, signs, people who brought us donuts, coffees, other goodies. Thank you so much. It was overall a wonderful experience, and I'm not done, and neither are many of us, right? So this is only one phase. So we're done collecting signatures. Hopefully this triggers a referendum. And now the work will start later on during the referendum campaign, which as far as I'm concerned, starts today. And that referendum campaign is all about educating people to the values of an independent Alberta. And I just want to, I want to say this, like I keep hearing people who have suggestions, who want to change the leadership and blah, 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 right? The videos that I've talked about in the last couple of days. We don't need a leader, okay? We don't need a leader right now. I don't know why everybody thinks we need a leader. There are, break down the population into, 30% have already decided they're signing. Okay. So, and they're gone. They want an independent Alberta. That's me. That's probably you watching this. 30% are never going to be converted. Okay. They're nostalgic for a Canada that doesn't exist, or they work for the government, or they're scared or whatever, and they're never going to be converted. And there's that 40% in the middle that we have to convert. And there's lots of people that think that we need one leader to talk to that 40%. We don't. Okay.
Okay, and you can leave it there. And I'll give the other side of the argument because I have called for a leader in the past, and I've not just any leader. I think Keith Wilson fits that bill absolutely perfectly. And it's not necessarily for him to convert that 40%. That's not why people that are asking for a leader want a leader like Keith Wilson. What we're saying is there are a lot of voices in a grassroots movement like this. You're going to have some people with some very radical opinions. And when they voice those opinions, the mainstream media is going to pick that up and say, this is the entire movement. The entire movement wants to be the 51st state when it's only one guy way over there. The majority of people want Alberta independence to be a free and independent Alberta and to be its own nation. But when you have a leader, they're able to address those issues and say, well, no, that's one fringe voice within a movement of thousands of voices. So it allows for course correction for mainstream media propaganda.
And I do agree with that. And I think maybe a more palatable way to put it would be we need a spokesperson or spokespersons. And I think Keith Wilson, if he continues to say he doesn't want to be the lead, doesn't want to be the president, he's just supporting and giving out information, helping in any way he can, he's going to do, well, unless Jason Kenney backs out, he is going to do those debates against Jason Kenney. And I think that might be the first push to really show him as the spokesperson and the one that the media should kind of turn to, or Jeff Rath, because Jeff knows how to deal with the media.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. I never actually thought about it like that. Good call there, Nat. We need an official spokesperson, and that official spokesperson needs to be Keith Wilson. So when these fringe voices come up and the mainstream media tries to say...
Or attacks by others pretending to be those fringe voices.
Well, yeah, they're going to try to implant people within the movement. They're going to have radical opinions and say this is the movement's whole opinion. That's the point of having an official spokesperson or a leader, I guess.
And we've seen them do that before during the Freedom Convoy.
Oh, absolutely.
Planting things, not just people, but things, and then a bunch of people getting in trouble for it, and then the government not being held accountable at all about it. So yes, spokesperson, but I do like how Marty frames it both here and in other things, other places he has said it, and during our interview, where yes, it is a citizen-led initiative, which is why having a leader per se goes kind of against, contradicts the whole point of the citizenry being involved. And I think during this referendum education campaign and the referendum campaign, it is very important to get that citizenry involved, both those that are for and against, but to talk to each other and do the debates and do the real education, because as we see the nationalist side or the stay in Canada side give their points for why Alberta should stay within Canada, they're very easily debunkable and debatable, and the counterpoints just make a lot more sense to the regular citizens too. The thing is, they don't know those points yet. So that is why the education component is even more important almost than the signatures themselves.
Yeah, and the main reason, I was calling for a leader or an official spokesperson, mainly Keith Wilson, is because I do think the mainstream media and the federal government are going to try to plant people within this grassroots movement, and they're going to have a radical voice, and they're going to try to say the whole movement is radical, the whole movement's racist, or whatever narrative they want to try to paint. We have to cut that off. Keith Wilson is the best person for that job.
And not to say the canvassers aren't important. When I say the education component it might be even more important than the signatures, but I mean, we already have all these canvassers, these involved citizens that now are discovering maybe, or they have been involved for a long time in other things politically, but that now have that kind of political bug and that wanting to be involved citizens in them, and they can help translate that towards other citizens that might be completely disengaged because of how disenfranchised they feel. So that I do think the canvassers will continue to play an incredibly important role now during the education campaign.
Well, absolutely. And there are a lot of different organizations popping up that are supporting Alberta independence, a lot for a lot of different reasons, but we do have to monitor all these organizations popping up because we don't want the federal government having one of these organizations pop up.
We just saw what happened with the SPLC in the U.S.
With a different agenda.
Exactly. But we are seeing some action already from Rebel News saying, quote, Act for Alberta launches billboard truck campaign to fuel independence movement.
And this is absolutely fantastic. Yes. And I'm just giving updates on what Rebel News is doing to support with inside Alberta independence. It's going to be a full-on assault from them. So thank you to Rebel News.
In a positive way.
And you don't need to read the whole thing.
Yes.
We can go down to the clip because she's going to explain it here. And thanks to Sheila Gunn Reid as well. Yes. She's been doing a fantastic job.
There's a brand new, big, beautiful billboard truck taking to the streets of Alberta to tell Albertans that they can do better and they will do better. If they are free from the shackles of Confederation, I can't wait to tell you all about it. Sheila Gunn Reid for Rebel News. I'm here in Edmonton, Alberta, and there are two very important things over each of my shoulders. First, that's the Alberta Legislature building right there. And right there, well, that's the Act for Alberta billboard truck. Now, time for the admissions. Act for Alberta is a registered third-party advertiser group that is involved in the campaign for Alberta independence. There will be a referendum held in October. And I am the authorized agent for Act for Alberta. But right now, just imagine that I'm wearing my Rebel News journalism hat because I'm doing a news story right now. Act for Alberta was founded to comply with registered third-party advertiser rules. And Rebel News journalist, me, had to do that because Elections Alberta didn't like the idea that I wrote a book called Independence Blueprint, What Alberta Can Learn from Quebec. And they didn't like that I went on a book tour to promote the book and talk about Western independence with my friend Corey Morgan from the Western Standard, who was also talking about his book, The Sovereigntist Handbook. And I was also on the book tour with my friend Tamara Leach, who talked about citizen activism and her story of the Freedom Convoy with her book, Hold the Line. Some of you may recognize this billboard truck from its missions in Toronto. Rebel News does own this billboard truck, but it is rented to Act for Alberta.
Okay, yeah, and that's absolutely fantastic to doing that. And we do have an interview with Tamara Leach coming out on Sunday. Yes. So thank you to her, by the way.
Yes. I was trying to keep that one under covers, but
okay.
We'll
but
talk
it was
about
a fantastic interview. I think that interview we did with her was the first time everything really came together. We were always a little bit.
And she was great as well.
We were very nervous before that, and you had some fantastic questions, I will say.
But yes, wait for more information on that one. I'll continue to keep it undercover for a little bit. On Sunday, yes. But also...
It's not undercover anymore, so you can't.
From us of Alberta asking, are you ready for the return of the most Albertan man in the world?
And I thought we would add a couple memes here or there just to lighten up the show a little bit. I tend to get really serious, and I need to catch myself.
He once caught an NDP supporter trying to give puberty blockers to a child. He politely dealt with it in the most Albertan way possible. He once drove from Calgary to Edmonton in 45 minutes. Traffic was heavy that day. He went hunting with Marty up north. They convinced a grizzly to support an independent Alberta. He refused to do an interview with CTV. He said he has had more insightful conversations with his cattle. He once went on Joe Rogan to talk about Alberta's independence. They ended up talking about bow hunting for hours. He knows that a memorandum of understanding simply means more liberal excuses to hold Alberta back. He was the first one to show up at the independence rally in Edmonton, and the last to leave. He says Alberta's independence isn't radical. Staying in this mess is. He tried to explain the oil sands to folks from BC. They asked if it was a music festival. He doesn't want to fix Canada. He wants to free Alberta. He is the most Albertan man in the world.
Yeah, and that was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So whoever made that, obviously they made it with AI, but they did a fantastic job with that.
But also, and on that point, and not to get too serious again, but all of you and us can be the most Albertan, either man or woman in the world, just by the decisions we decide to take and make on every day.
Yeah,
and continuing
absolutely.
the education of why it's important. Educate the grizzly bears, as Marty and the most Albertan man in the world did.
Yeah, that was fantastic. They put Marty up north in the video.
And speaking of Marty up north, he says, quote, "This is exactly what I was talking about in my video this morning. Dozens of different groups and organizations supporting Alberta independence are going to emerge in the coming weeks, and that's fantastic. Some will resonate with you more than others. There might be even some of you that some that you don't totally agree with, and that's okay. Getting the message out about the values of an independent Alberta is not a one-shoe-fits-all proposition. Join a group, join the movement."
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And the message coming out here is fantastic. Again, I would say we do need to keep an eyes on organizations that kind of pop out of nowhere and have radical messaging as that being a plant from the federal government so they can distort the movement.
Because we've seen that happen before.
Because we've seen it happen in the U.S. as well as Canada with the truckers convoy as well. But overall, I'm glad to see a lot of voices coming to Alberta independence. And this only helps put the pressure on Danielle Smith to make sure that question is on that night, October 19th ballot.
I also really agree with Marty there, saying that getting the message out about values of an independent Alberta is not a one-shoe-fits-all proposition. And the message might come from different people and different avenues in different ways with different kinds of messaging. And some you, again, might not agree with. For example, we see a lot of people saying, I don't agree with Jeff Rath, but I think him and Keith Wilson, for example, make a good contrast with each other. And some people really resonate with Jeff Rath and some really don't. But then there's Keith and then there's this and that and Marty and etc. And us.
We must become independent to save the legacy that Macdonald and Laurier built of responsible government, that the men of Vimy and Juneau fought for, that every unknown Canadian contributed to. We must separate from the forces that would have us tear down statues, call our great history a disaster of genocide and hatred. The values of old Canada still exist. We must fight for them. just as hard as the explorers, the entrepreneurs, the builders have always fought. We are bold. We are brave. We're unflinching. Canada is not dead, and Alberta will carry the flag of freedom into a new era of hope, of greatness, of something beyond what we could imagine. Because Canada is not a flag or a government. Canada is the people who are willing to stand in hope, who are willing to fight for freedom, and who are willing to make something great, no matter what the cost.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic message there. And I'm glad to see more voices coming towards Alberta independence in a very public manner, because we are entering a campaign season where we need public voices now.
Yes. And lastly, just as a reminder, Rise of Alberta says, Alberta is not a province, it is a nation being held hostage by a federation that hates it inside of an insane asylum.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on here. They would just allow the question on the ballot if they weren't trying to hold us hostage. And we already see a lot of dirty tricks being played.
Mm-hmm. And again, with that last message that Marty highlighted there, that might resonate with some people, but then I think there has to be messaging also for the younger people and the opportunities that they don't have right now. The job fairs, the miles-long lines at job fairs where there's only 80 employers and they can't get any opportunities. That has to be different messaging to the one that we just saw than the one that Jeff Rath gives, et cetera, and Marty, us, et cetera. So I think the more voices, the better, but being wary of the new ones that come up and seem very radical for no reason.
Well, yeah, and like I said, Danielle Smith is building a safety net, but that safety net's no good if we don't get democracy with that referendum question on October 19th. Why? Because it's like leading a cattle to the slaughterhouse and giving them treats the entire way there. They're thinking it's going to be okay. Next thing you know, off with our head. Canada's going in the wrong direction and they're going off a cliff. Even if they give us a bunch of treats like MOUs and pipelines and other things, those are going to give short-term relief. The long-term vision is not looking good for Canada. And as long as Alberta keeps going along with everything, it's not going to be a good long-term vision for Alberta either.
And also, Alberta has that opportunity to leave the insane asylum right now, and it might not get it again. That's the thing. And they'll try their damnedest to not let Alberta get it again. Yeah. 8 2.0 says, Plan B, buy a UCP membership and keep Danielle Smith honest. Yeah,
and that's why that game plan of getting UCP memberships are so important, because it allows us to ratchet up the pressure on Danielle Smith in a polite and honest way.
Justin GP says, yep, I'm hoping we go the Stay Free Alberta route, but if not, I'll take Tommy's route too. Let's get it to a vote.
Yeah.
Sam says, the greatest thing about living in Cowtown instead of Medicine Hat is that you don't have to run off the rattlesnakes. And I saw that someone was saying that it was really windy right now. I think in Medicine Hat or Cowtown, it's really windy here right now too. If you can hear like rattling, it's one of our doors rattling in the wind. For some reason it does it. You can't lock it. Glenn Gunn says scorpions and black widows. Here we got scorpions too.
Oh, you were telling me a story about a bunch of scorpions on a wall when you were younger.
Yes, I was at a party and I was sitting, it had just rained and I was sitting on a ledge, and there's a lot of buildings built with volcanic rock here in Mexico City because we're right next to a volcano. And I was sitting on the grass on top of this kind of little wall. And I turned around and I left my bag there, and there were a bunch of snails all over the place. And I'm squeamish with certain bugs. Snails are one of them. And I kept complaining to my friends that were standing like around me and next to me, and there were cars parked right in front. Someone got in their car and turned on their lights because it was dark, it was at night. And everybody looks down and it's the wall is covered in black scorpion, and my feet are dangling there, and I'm complaining about the snails while the scorpions are just hanging out there. And we didn't see them. We wouldn't have seen them unless because of that person that turned on their lights. And we all ran out and screamed, and there was a snail in my bag as well. Sam says there's a line across Alberta that they don't go above because of the climate. Oh, the bugs. Okay. Justin GP says, worked in West Texas for 1.5 years, came back due to COVID. Lots of critters there. Yeah, there too.
Yeah, Texas is crazy, the amount of critters they have. A lot of people have tarantulas, and they'll gasoline their entire yard in order to get rid of all the tarantulas and scorpions.
Yeah. Harmony says...
And there's all... never mind. I won't bring it up.
What?
There's a lot of Bigfoot and
Oh,
werewolves.
don't start. Harmony says, thank you to Marty and your wife and all the other canvassers. And yes, thank you to everybody that has even gotten one signature, but that has made the effort as citizens that want their voices heard. Because most citizens have forgotten that they are the ones that should be truly in power.
Yeah.
Glenn Gunn says, hi, Jess. Thanks for everything you've done. Part 6. Yes, thank you so much. And Sam says, I always tell my sister who hates snakes, climate change is bringing rattlers to Calgary. She says, F off. Glenn Gunn also says,
I don't know if rattlesnakes can survive the winter though there.
Maybe under
Maybe they hibernate or something. I don't know much
I don't know about
rattlesnakes.
snakes. I just know about the human snakes. Harmony says, a natural leader will emerge, methinks. Yeah, and again, I'm
Well,
seeing...
yeah, and I think Keith Wilson has emerged, and having him be an official spokesman, I think would be the important thing, so he can cut off any radical opinions or views that the mainstream media runs with.
Or counter, at least.
Yeah.
Glenn Gunn says, the rattler I had just south of Medicine Hat was creepy. The neighboring farmer ended a block from my place, 7 foot thick and greenish. Lovely.
Oh yeah, let's go
Justin
two
GP.
more comments, and then
This is a bad idea. Justin GP says, I vote Nat and Guy as our leaders.
no, that's a bad idea.
Yes. Believe me, we live with each other. We know. Justin GP says, no thanks needed. I'm doing my part for Albertans. But it is needed because more people should be encouraged to stand up as citizens and do what citizens should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ammo C9M.
Well, and let's just remember what recently happened in the States. I mean, I didn't bring the article up, and I haven't brought it up for tomorrow either, but it fits in perfectly with what's going on in Alberta. Under the Biden administration, they were doing $3 million worth of funding towards white supremacist organizations in order to...
Through the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, that was supposed to be an anti-hate group NGO. Continue.
Well, yeah. So then they were changing all kinds of legislation to go after those groups and to pump up other kinds of legislation. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Canadian government did something similar within the Alberta movement.
Ammo C9M says there's a difference between being radical versus having the balls to defend your freedom. Just saying. And I totally agree with that. But again, I'm thinking of the radical voices that will be implanted. I was going to say implanted within the movement, but that are just there to erupted, mess with it. There we go.
Well, it's important that we keep a good vibe like the truckers convoy did, and they weren't able to really pin anything on them. We were able to see through it really quick, following them back to the hotel when they had a camera guy with the flag. We would instantly call people out that had masks on. We would say fed, and point them out really quick. So having strategies to kind of cut off the federalist strategies is going to be important.
Alba Twitch says, Tamara is great. Yes, she is. And Glenn Gunn says, nice guess. Nice guess. Can't wait to watch the biggest hero in Canadian history in the past 30 years.
Yeah.
Terry Fox was before her. And I was fangirling part because, again, we started this whole thing during the Freedom Convoy and seeing what happened to her and reporting what was happening to Tamara Lich and Corey and everybody else that was involved and was mistreated tremendously by the federal government and the citizens as well. But I tried not to fangirl so much with her, but it was a great experience meeting her because, again, I've been personally incredibly inspired by her.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. And this channel has as well.
Yes.
We were down at the BC border, and that was the first video we ever did. And then we went back for another one. And then we just continued on with different freedom causes as we prepared to leave Canada.
Yes. Edward says, yeah, the most Albertan man in the world. And Jess says, I know. Jess says, how'd you get me on video? Lol, JK. Says, I have well-worn cowboy boots, says Edward.
I used to have a cowboy hat, but it didn't go well in travel.
No, or in my estimation. I didn't like it. But now let's move on to Alberta politics. Then we'll continue reading all your comments. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's go.
He doesn't discuss federal politics. He only concerns himself with Alberta's independence.
Starting with, speaking of as well, because we've been speaking about her all the stream, Danielle Smith says...
Well, and I will say a few things before you kind of get into it. She did make a few announcements, not today. I think this was yesterday or the day before. Great announcements, and she's headed in the right direction. As long as she gets this petition question right on October 19th, she's doing a fantastic job.
Danielle Smith says, quote, "The word cancer changes life in an instant. No one is ever ready for the decisions that follow. That's why we're lowering the breast cancer screening age to 40 and helping cancer patients preserve their chance to have a family by funding fertility treatments through a new onco-fertility program."
Yeah, and this is absolutely fantastic. I was seeing people trying to talk down to her, saying she's trying to bring in a private medical system into Alberta. If that relieves stress on the public sector, I'm all for it. I don't know if that's the case in this particular situation, but I seen some comments saying that it was. But I'm all for a private public system.
Well, I can't imagine a woman having to make a choice of, what if I delay treatment so I can have babies? And knowing the longer you wait, you might actually die. Knowing that if you go to early treatment, you might not be able to have kids. It's an impossible choice. The reason we want to do early screening is so that women can feel confident they can get the treatment and have a very, very high chance of recovery. But it's a bitter pill to ask them to swallow if at the end of that treatment, it's so life-changing that they close the door. So let's keep that door open. I think that's why. We want to ensure that Albertans facing cancer get the supports that they need, even before treatment begins. This program will help to reduce barriers during one of the most stressful periods of a person's life and offer hope and choices for what comes after treatment. Alongside cancer supports like onco-fertility, we're also expanding breast cancer screening in Alberta because detecting cancer earlier gives people a better chance of successful treatment and improved survival rates.
Yeah, and it's great that she's headed in the right direction on all these things. The problem is, in the long-term scope of things, we're headed in the wrong direction as long as we continue to follow Canada. So policies like this, or even better policies like this, because we're going to be able to hit a complete reset button once we get our independence. Absolutely fantastic.
And I could go on, and I know you hate it when I go on my diatribes. I could go on a whole thing about women's health and the increasing rates of cancer after the jibby jab era, and the jibby jab specifically, especially amongst younger people, the fact that younger women are delaying having children up to the point where, yes, even these newer cancers are starting to creep up. I do think it's a good initiative. I do, and I will continue to advocate for at least a private-public way of looking at the healthcare system, because clearly in Canada it's not working. But I mean, it's a step in the right direction, I will say.
I would say it's more than a step in the right direction. If you look at Danielle Smith's overall policies, she wants to start doing a lot of pre-screenings, not just for cancer. And this is how a medical system should work. They should try to cut a lot of this stuff off before it's too late.
True.
It's not just cancer.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But with cancer, breast cancer specifically, there is conflicting information coming out about how effective or damaging, but again, don't take medical advice from me ever at all, but how conflicting or damaging pre-screening could be.
Yeah, but I'm not just talking about cancer
I know.
here. Okay, let's continue on.
But that's why I didn't want to go on my long diatribe. You said I had to be more relaxed. Stop tapping the little table at me. Courtney Thoreau says, Premier Danielle Smith says they aren't holding a referendum on permanent DST or daylight savings time because they don't have enough time ahead of the fall change. Adds that Albertans will see they'd rather have later sunsets than 4 a.m. sunrises during the summer.
Yeah, I'm all for no time change. That being said, I mean, it's not a big deal. Either go one way or the other. Let's try it out. I see a lot of hate online trying to hit her on this point. This is not one of those points you're going to hit her on.
Well, we would have to give enough notice. I think that's what we saw when BC ended up announcing that they were not going to be changing the clocks again, because there are a number of different professions that rely on doing schedules in advance, airlines, hockey games. There's a number of things. So making sure that we're not giving people only a couple of weeks notice was one of the considerations. One of the other considerations is just that we are now an island, that we're seeing that American states are passing policies saying that they want to end the time change. British Columbia got a little impatient. They said they can't wait for America to go. They're going first. Saskatchewan's already there. Yukon's already there. And Northwest Territories got in touch with us and said, hey, if you go, we'll go too. So I think that the decision got voiced upon us just because we knew that in the fall, people would be asking us, hey, why didn't you do this? Because everybody else has gone this way.
Okay, you can leave it there. And she said, if they don't like the fact that we're not changing the time anymore, we can put it to a vote.
Again.
But I don't think anybody's going to really mind.
They already did, didn't they?
No.
Oh, okay. And because you're incorporating more memes into the stream, apparently, but there's a comparison between home invasions in Canada versus Florida. And if you have seen these, I mean, they're stark.
In the unlikely event that you find yourself the victim of a home invasion, we are urging citizens not to take matters into their own hands. While we don't want homeowners to feel powerless, we urge you to call 911 and do everything you can to keep yourself and loved ones.
Criminals, we're going to take your criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
And fantastic. Hopefully, I mean, Alberta already has that attitude, but they need to have the right to defend themselves in their homes once they're an independent country.
Because
under Canadian rule, you're never going to really have that option.
No, you're trapped in the insane asylum that is Canada. Call 911. Go hide. Don't do anything. Don't react. Let them steal whatever they want. We are not going to get involved because the wait times for police to actually show up are incredibly long as well in Canada. But CTV, speaking of, CTV Edmonton says, Forever Canadian Organizer says government is prioritizing the separation petition. He's all over the place, isn't he?
Well, it almost seemed like after today's press conference, she was prioritizing his petition.
Yeah,
so
saying you can't change your mind.
He got what he wants, so maybe his question is going to be the one on the ballot. I would prefer that it was ours because I think ours is a lot more clear.
Mm-hmm.
But she might just use his ballot to actually sneak our question on because our question is extremely clear.
Lukasics, but again, he seems to be all over the place right now.
Well, he doesn't want this thing to go
now
into
he
a petition. Yeah.
Before he was all elbows up about it.
Well, they don't have a lot of talking points. So if they can get his question on the petition and that's the route they go because the judge wants to keep staying this thing, you're going to hear a whole campaign of how that was their question and they didn't even want it on the ballot to begin with. So...
But Western Standard also says, Kaplan, quote, the hidden cost of a net zero, jobs lost, wages cut, and Alberta paying the price.
Yeah, 100% absolutely. As long as you're under Canadian rule, this is going to be the case. And until Alberta gets its independence and can fix a lot of things at the absolute root, the way it needs to be fixed, you're going to continue to see stuff like this.
And again, it doesn't matter how many pipelines get thrown at you and how many MOUs get thrown at Alberta. The fact that it is still under the insane communist dictatorship it means that you will always have those restrictions imposed that don't let production actually be productive.
Yeah.
But now we'll go back to some of your comments and then we'll go into Alberta personalities, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sam says, yeah, I can't get from Calgary to Edmonton in 45 minutes. No BS. I tried and my bike does 300. Don't know how fast 300 is.
But you need a horse like the greatest Albertan of all time.
Daryl Robinson says, important note, third-party advertisers for independence must be registered with Elections Canada. Advertisers, yes, but I think just education and conversations and debate can still be had.
Yeah, well, 100% absolutely.
Yeah, but it depends how you want to be distinguished upon as the campaign
I think that's the big secret weapon, and that's just individual citizens that have YouTube stations that aren't advertising; they're just having conversations, and that is worth far more than the billion. I would say probably billions of dollars that are going to flood into this thing from the federal government.
Yeah. Justin GP says, Daryl, Nat, and Guy live in Mexico. They can be your third party with no repercussions. Maybe no repercussions. If we ever do want to visit and it's still under Canadian reign, then who knows what they would do to us. Edward says, most Alberta man has a magic square body. That's how. And Sam says, Rebel already got the license. Yes, exactly. And that's what they've been trying to explain over the past week and a half or 2 weeks since they announced it, that they are allowed to do this.
Yeah, and it's good that Rebel News knew the ins and outs and the system that they had to comply with, because that's going to save a lot of headaches in the long run.
Troglodyte says, Sam, I had a ninja, didn't want to become a squid on the highway. Motorcycle?
Yeah.
Okay. He knows more about motorcycles than I do.
A ninja is a racing bike.
Okay.
Or a sport bike.
Glenn says, Reminder, Nan and the Guy, house arrest with Tamara and Chris on tonight, live soon. Shout out to that. Thank you. And yes, thank you for reminding us. I'll bring it up and show it in a bit as well.
Yeah.
Tyler Robinson says, Jess, yep, we need more of them. And Sam says, Tamara from my hometown and Chris from my favorite diner, two of my favorite people. Chocolate says, Canada has passed a tipping point. It is pretty much unfixable now, especially with Carney majority.
Yeah, and when we were talking about the Whistle Stop Cafe last night, I was like, oh, I really want pierogies. Nowhere in Mexico sells pierogies at the regular stores, even the American grocery stores. I was like, oh, God, how are we going to get these things? You found a little Russian deli that I guess sells something that's very similar to pierogies. So we're going to make a trip out there to get these bag of a pound of pierogies, I guess. But it was crazy. Nowhere in Mexico.
It's not a thing.
We checked like 10 different grocery stores. Nowhere had pierogies.
It's the same as when you try to look for taco seasoning in Mexico, and I tell them taco seasoning is just what Mexicans put on tacos.
Well, and then we started looking at like
first
we looked at Polish restaurants, and we still couldn't find, none of them had pierogies on the menu, and then finally we had to go to a Russian deli.
Because in Vancouver we used to get pierogies at Costco.
Yeah.
And they were cheap. But yeah, here we don't eat taco seasoning either, which is a thing I've been trying to hammer into his head for a while. He keeps looking every time we go to the grocery store. He goes, oh, but maybe today they'll have taco seasoning.
Just to annoy you.
Well, I'm sure. Troglodyte says, I've heard of tarantula migrations too. That would be fun. Yeah, if they go over with Alberta as well.
Okay, let's go 2 more comments, and then we'll go into the next section here.
And Rafa says, hello, Nan and Guy. Thank you for being here, Rafa. Hello. And Glenn, stop encouraging this, says, Guy, there's a few Bigfoot in Texas part-time.
Yeah, there's a lot of sightings of Bigfoot in Texas. Actually, the main guy that I listen to is Paranormal Roundtable. Fantastic stories. He's from Texas, so he profiles Texas a lot.
Don't advertise. But let's go to Alberta Personalities. And I'm going to start with a kind of different one just for today.
Okay.
But let's go.
But they need to understand that Albertans are done. We're leaving, and there's no more conversation to be had. I know that's upsetting to people.
And starting with, I changed the game on you a little bit.
Okay.
But since I think Edward mentioned it, yes, go subscribe if you haven't to House Arrest. It is Chris and Tamara. There's the figures that made history.
Fantastic. They're growing fast because last week they had 5,000 and something.
Yes,
so that's good to see.
They're growing fast. And go subscribe to them. It's at House Arrest -18 or just House Arrest on YouTube. And yes, they are live right now with Jeff Avely. So
well, and they have fantastic guests all the time.
Exactly. So if you want, go there and then come back and watch us on replay.
Yeah.
But actually moving on to the other section, Mark Nixon says, quote, we are witnessing the most insane moment in Canadian history. We have a prime minister playing with small toy soldiers, making YouTube videos, making excuses for not speaking to the United States for 5 months, yet Canadians continue to support Carney. And I would caveat, and they continue to support Pierre.
Yeah, I didn't bring it up to actually talk about that. I brought this up to have the bigger discussion because this is in the Alberta personality section. We have to start realizing a lot of people that we might not necessarily think are on the side of Alberta independence are doing a lot of the heavy lifting by pointing out all the mistakes and the direction Canada is going. So I think when Pierre Poilievre says a lot of these things about Carney and he keeps pointing it out, we should amplify his voice. Now, I do realize he could turn against Alberta independence at some point, but at this point, he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And the next guy we're going to profile after him is Ninchi. Ninchi's actually doing some heavy lifting for us too. So it's nice when you're people that are against Alberta independence are actually making some of the best arguments for independence.
But I also think it is because Canada, there is no fixing Canada. So no matter what arguments they make for or against, the only way forward is to leave Canada. And it just becomes more evident as the days go on.
Does anybody know what Mark Carney's plan is? He hasn't held negotiations in 5 months. The Mexicans are going to be at the table formally with the Americans any day. The only talks that Mark Carney is doing are YouTube videos where he's comparing himself to Sir Isaac Brock and holding up little figurines in his office. My position is clear. Build up leverage. Use that leverage to get rid of American tariffs on aluminum, steel, autos, and lumber. What is Mark Carney's plan? He said yesterday in his video,
many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses.
So does that mean that he wants to end USMCA? If he wants it renegotiated, does he want a full overhaul? What are his demands? Has he waved the white flag on getting rid of the tariffs, or is he still fighting that fight? Does anybody...
Yeah, made a great argument for Alberta independence there.
Yeah.
So he's not
And continues to do so.
He's not going to be able to run for another election for 3 years. So when he makes arguments like that, the only instant change that's available for Canadians and even national conservative Canadians, if they want to move to Alberta to vote for independence, is Alberta independence.
Yeah.
So.
Michael Cooper also saying outrageous Carney is abusing his power by seizing control of all parliamentary committees. Carney is using his new illegitimate majority to stack committees to block investigations into Liberal corruption and his vast conflicts. Conservatives will win this power grab. Will fight this, not win, fight with this power grab. It's starting to sound a lot like Mexico.
Well, and again, another national conservative that's against Alberta independence making the best argument for Alberta independence. And that's why I put these personalities within the Alberta personality section here. We need to start realizing even these people that are against independence,
they're doing the job
at their first principles. What they actually want is what independence is offering.
Yeah. And it's the only way to get it as well.
Mark Carney has just launched an unprecedented parliamentary power grab. Last night, his House leader put on notice a motion that will stack the deck in favor of the Liberals at all parliamentary committees. Liberals will now command a majority on all committees, including oversight committees like ethics and public accounts, committees that are tasked with holding the Liberal government to account. As a result, Liberals will be able to shut down investigations into government mismanagement, shield Carney from his vast conflicts with respect to Brookfield, and block whistleblowers from testifying publicly. As I said, a total power grab. Look, the Liberals...
Okay, and you can leave it there. And I will say this, let's let the national conservatives show what the direction of Canada and what that direction is. And let's focus on what the direction of Alberta is. And when we can combine those two argument points, Alberta independence is obviously the only way forward.
And also, as much as the Conservatives can complain and speak up about it, they can't really do much about it other than continue to complain, because even as the opposition, their voices will not be heard, and we've seen that already.
Well, we need to forge a positive vision forward of what Alberta independence looks like. If we keep focusing on all the negative aspects of Canada, it could backfire a little bit. So allowing the Conservatives on the national level to do that and just point it out when they're saying what we're thinking and what we would have to consume a lot of our time with, that we don't need to right now because they're saying it for us.
Exactly. And it's also funny, just on the actual points he was saying, that's what's happening in Mexico and has been happening in Mexico because we've allowed our system to become so corrupt from the beginning. So the fact that it just sounds exactly the same as what people here in Mexico are complaining about, and if you, like many national Canadians, they say, oh no, Mexico right now is horrible and it's a corrupt country. So are you. And you're very similar. But also, to highlight another person that's doing our job for us for Alberta independence is Nenshi. Western Standard says Nenshi backtracks after dismissing the possibility of Albertans voting to leave Canada.
Yeah, and absolutely fantastic. Another guy that opposes Alberta independence, just caught between a rock and a hard place and doing our work for us. Every time this guy opens his mouth, it's like an advertisement to push people towards independence.
So keep doing it, Nenshi. I support him in that, at least, because he'll continue to bury himself.
And he tried to make a meme here. Well, why don't we show the meme he did?
Oh, yes. He made that? Oh, yeah, he did.
He tried to.
Saying,
and it didn't come out very well.
Saying it's time
he became the meme when he was trying to make the meme.
It says it's time to go.
Tick, tick, bringing the noise. Maybe we bringing the talk.
But it's funny because it is time to go.
For
It's time
him.
to go from Canada.
Yeah, it's time to go for independence, and it's time for him to go as well.
It's time for him to go to the gym. I'm sure he's never set foot in one. Sam says, now we'll read your comments and then we'll go into Alberta's Canada, or just more reasons for Alberta to become independent. Like we're just highlighting now from all the voices that are saying the exact same thing. Sam says, I was at Possum Kingdom Lake in Texas with friends, and in the shower, scorpion. Yeah, not a fan. Wild Rose, hello, says, there's tons of rattlesnakes in southern Alberta. I've never been super scared of snakes, scorpions, and after that experience I told you about, even more. Certain spiders if they're too big, but the things that jump or fly, bugs that are unpredictable and you don't know where they're going to go. I hate crickets. I've eaten them. Here in Mexico we eat crickets, but I hate them because they jump and you don't know which direction they're going to go. Frogs, very much the same. birds as well, butterflies, things that fly and you don't know where they're going to go, or jump and you don't know where they're going to go. That's even scarier to me than, I guess, snakes, because at least you can see them slithering and they can't jump on you. Some can, though, which is even scarier. We're talking about bugs. Dara Robinson says...
Like gnats?
Oh, yeah, gnats. Dara Robinson says, there's a membership form on UCP site that you download. I don't think I can post the link here. No. Links are not allowed on our chat to avoid spam, but thank you for the information as well, Daryl.
Yeah, and joining the UCP is going to be the best way to put pressure on Danielle Smith in the nicest possible way. And yeah, right now, as we start applying pressure, let's start in the nicest possible way and then go from there.
Because last time that kind of happened with when she first announced the 9 referendum questions, she did pivot a little bit. Now she's pivoting a bit back, but... can be done. Sam says, dude, you got that when I was a kid outside of many berries. My mom would get my dad to go through the garden with a shovel before she would go get the vegetables. Sounds like me as well. I don't like rats or mice because of that same reason of them being able to move and you don't know where they're going to go. And they move really quickly. So I would refuse to throw away the trash in our old apartment that was above the Scotiabank Theater because of how much popcorn there was and how much they were throwing out and food. There was always these massive rats. And in Vancouver, they've let them fester to the point where now they're basically dogs.
Well, and Vancouver is surrounded by water, so they have a huge rat problem.
So I refuse to take the trash out. So that's been your job for the longest
Let's
time.
go 3 more comments and then we're going to go into Alberta's Canada because I got a lot of stories today.
Troglodyte says, you know how effective Tamara is when the government wanted to give her 8 years for mischief. Exactly.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about what happened in the truckers' convoy, how a lot of things are related to Alberta independence, how one led to another. So...
And Harmony says the Western Standard had an article today titled "Socialist Wing of the NDP Demands Ebi Step Down for Not Being Radical Enough" by Alex Sultan. So you can go look that article up. And last comment, Miss Altoad says, Albertans are getting private care anyway, going to the USA and elsewhere. Why not actually keep some of that money here?
Yeah.
That's what I've been saying for the longest time.
And it just takes, when you have a private system that works in a tandem with the public system, it takes a lot of pressure off of that public system. So the poor people can get better service.
Yeah. It always baffled me coming from the Mexican system, which is a private public shared kind of thing. It always baffled me that wasn't a thing in Canada, that you couldn't just go and pay out of pocket if you wanted to go see a doctor, if you wanted to go faster. It still blows my mind. But let's move on to Alberta's Canada. We call it that way because Alberta is the one that's holding up the rest of Canada. And soon Canada will crumble because Alberta is going to go.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
And starting with Riley Donovan saying, quote, Cowichan Valley residents gathered to protest a proposed bylaw targeting family farms, chickens, bees, and horses. The local government officially backed down today, but outraged locals are vowing to vote them out anyways to punish their attack on rural life.
This is an extremely rural area in British Columbia, and they're trying to get rid of horses, chickens, basically trying to get rid of family farms through regulations, through committees, without even trying to vote on it. So there has been a big uproar here. And the reason I kind of profiled this is you could see similar policies coming to Alberta through the federalization of Canada if we don't get our independence. Yeah. These are the kind of federal policies Mark Carney's going to love. Okay, and you can leave it there. And there's been a big turnout, and locals have really raised their voices and backed the politicians off. Hopefully they vote those politicians out that even tried to propose these in the first place.
And we initially did cover this story when it was first coming up a few weeks ago. I think we spoke about it, but we also spoke about the importance of family farms, of homesteads, of both children, but also families and communities getting back to the roots. That also encourages families to continue to stay together and actual communities to form and for people to be self-sustainable, which is a threat to a government that wants to control everything from what you eat to what you breathe to what you see, etc. So that is why they're so opposed to this.
One cow feeds a family for a year when you butcher it and freeze everything up. So
exactly. One of my lifelong dreams is to have a homestead, maybe one day, and 2 cows, because apparently cows are best friends and you can't separate them. So I want 2. Maria Zelaya says,
well, we need 3 because I'll have to eat one.
No.
What do you think
they're
I'm
going to
gonna do
be
with
my friends?
You're gonna have the cows just to be friends.
To milk them. And be friends. Maria Zelaya says, quote, the land where the spaceport is in Nova Scotia, remember they just announced a Canadian space program. It's as laughable as the Mexican space program that they also just announced. The spaceport is in Nova Scotia. The company leases the land from the province for $13,500 per year.
And you can leave it there, and Mario will kind of explain it here. He did a fantastic job, but this is becoming a huge scandal. It's obviously something to line politicians' pockets. In order to build a space program, they're talking about, oh, we can make $40 billion a year off of it. It takes trillions to build a space program. We're going to have, I think, a clip in a little bit. Hopefully I grabbed it for today. It's like backyard rockets is what Canada's trying to launch off this little concrete pad, and they're calling it a space program. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Again, once again, with the comparisons with Mexico. Mexico just announced a space program too, very similar to what this looks like.
I'm going to blow your mind. Watch this. It's going to get really good really fast. This here is a small piece of land that with your taxpayer dollars, we paid $200 million to lease. Here's what you don't know. That spaceport by MLS, also known as Maritime Land Services, they leased that property from the provincial government for $13,000 a year. And then they leased it back to the federal government for $20 million a year for 10 years for $200 million. That same property is listed here as an asset.
And that's just step one to lining the pockets. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're going to be talking about billions of dollars when the space program starts to go and nothing's actually launched into space. This is the kind of programs you need to cut off at the knees, along with that train. That train that they're trying to build is a $90 billion train. The national debt of Canada is $73 billion. That train pays for the national debt.
Spaceport under construction and equipment for $15 million. They don't even own the land. And this is what the stock looks like after 1 year, a 2,300% gain. You see the director here, Sasha Jacob? Well, they're the chairman of the board, and they decided to actually sell $1.8 million worth of their shares. Nearly 3 million of them shortly after they got the $200 million contract. According to the website, Simply Wall Street, insiders have only sold shares in the past 3 months. I wonder why. Could it be the fact that a 6-person employee company just received a nearly $250 billion contract to lease out land that they themselves do not own? You'll never guess who sits on their board of directors. The former premier of Nova Scotia, former Liberal premier of Nova Scotia. And this is even crazier. This is Mark Carney's good friend. His name's Dan Goldberg, and he's the CEO of Telesat. Telesat received $2 billion from the Liberal government 1 week after Mark Carney was named as the economic advisor for the Liberal Party. That was nearly 2 years ago. And here's the thing about Telesat. They don't have a single low Earth orbit satellite, also known as LEO. In fact, they're not even building them. A company called MDA Space is building them. Their plan is to ultimately have 198 of them. But in order to do that, they need SpaceX to launch their satellites to space. Same SpaceX that has nearly 10,000 low Earth orbit satellites in space. The same Telesat that is being sued for its creditors for fraudulent asset transfers. And all of this is part of the elbows up strategy to reduce dependence on the US for the space race. But the insulting part is the fact that Norway was able to achieve the same thing.
And the level of corruption here, and I'm glad people are starting to notice, we need to take a microscope to the Mark Carney administration, whether it's the train, whether it's the space program, whether it's the satellites that were supposed to be launched years ago. I mean, it's just failure after failure, and it's coordinated failure meant to line people's pockets, not to actually achieve real tangible goals that will benefit Canadians.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you want to look at what the spaceport actually looks like, or
yeah, that's why I grabbed it. This is not just looking at the, okay, it's going to be kind of hard to see here, but they have the big beam that they're going to put up in this clip, and there's a little rocket there. That little red rocket is supposed to be Canada's version of a spaceship, I guess. It's like something you launch from your freaking backyard.
Table Salt says, lol, I'm dead.
Oh, and by the way, it's easier to get into space when you launch closest to the equator. That's why Texas and Florida are where all the space facilities are. You're not going to be able to get into space from Nova Scotia. It's extremely hard because different layers in the atmosphere.
Says, lol, I'm dead. This is an actual broadcast from the Canadian Spaceport in Nova Scotia. Bro, the rocket is like a hobby rocket and it's concrete pad.
And we have just had confirmation by Nord Space that they are ready to fly. The rocket has been secured and cleaned up, but they are moving launch to tomorrow morning. The statement saying, "Hi everyone, we've been asked to move our launch to tomorrow morning. We will see you then. Thanks for supporting us. This is just the beginning." Continuing on, they say, "We are ready to fly. Pad and rocket are all secure and cleaned up." Really curious who asked them to move it, but
keep going until the flags
with that, a confirmed scrub for today. Unfortunately,
and if you see the flags there, it's blowing. It's really windy. This is Nova Scotia. This is the same place where they like to put a lot of wind farms because it's so windy, and that's the same place you're going to put your rockets. You're going to have to cancel it because of wind and snow and weather conditions all the time. Absolutely fraudulent space program Canada has, and I'm glad it's being exposed right now. This little hobby rocket they got that they can't even launch a freaking hobby rocket.
They are not going to be able to get off the ground, and we are going to have to do this all again tomorrow, bright and early in the middle of the night. Yay. But we will, of course, be here for that. We're going to wrap this stream up, and we hope that you will join us live.
Like, it's just a perfect encapsulation of Canada itself.
If you have good relationship with the U.S., you can just launch off the back of SpaceX, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper every year because they have reusable rockets. You can spend $5 trillion building your freaking space program, and it's still going to cost you hundreds of billions of dollars to get satellites up in the air when you could just pay millions to SpaceX and have them launch your satellites for you. Mm-hmm. It's pointless.
Now you have a joke. Do you want to go to your joke?
Yeah, I've been adding memes. You're the joke, Nat.
I don't like Daniel Tosh. I'm sorry. I don't like Daniel Tosh. But Planet of Memes says, quote, "Canada has the greatest fence ever built, America."
Yeah, but it was a funny joke. So, okay. Enemies of the Americans. You've had so many benefits. You've been able to not only build your economy off of, but have protection and everything else. When you turn America into your enemy, there's going to be a lot of negative consequences you haven't even considered at this point.
And as Clyde do something again, his interview came out today with us, so go watch that one after this, I guess. But as Clyde was saying, Canada should be more grateful to the U.S. because this whole elbows up, we hate America, and this is not just recent; it has been going on for the longest time. Isn't going to work out well for Canada, and they're not going to realize Canadians that are all elbows up, and they won't realize it until it is too late, and they've stopped believing the propaganda that Carney continues to.
It's going to work out great for the globalists and great for the elites within Canada that want to take control and nationalize a lot of these industries, and then line their pockets with their globalist buddies there.
Exactly. But moving on, Western Standard says, quote, Bloc MP says potential Alberta BC pipeline would carry dirty oil.
Yeah, and this is how every other province other than Saskatchewan is going to try to put roadblocks in front of Alberta. This is absolutely ridiculous. You're not going to get any cooperation from these climate ideologues.
This is what sovereign Alberta within a united Canada looks like. Listening to people like that.
And I have a clip from her of her for tomorrow morning's episode. We're going to be broadcasting from 12 to 1 in the mornings. So yeah.
Not in the morning.
12 to 1 tomorrow afternoon.
12 p.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow. To 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. I mean, I will be up at 1 a.m. probably, but you won't.
We have 2 shows tomorrow. We also have our night show.
But now we'll read your comments and then head on to Alberta and the World.
Yeah.
Troglodyte says, leave your key fob on the step so they can steal your car. Says Canada. Exactly. Well, that's an actual thing that they said.
Yeah, that was the police department. I think it was the Toronto Police Department
It doesn't matter where it was. It was in Canada. Sam says, remember that band Chicago? Does anyone really know what time it is? Does anyone really care? Yeah, I do remember that back in Chicago. Miss Altoad says Smith could say the bubonic plague is bad and her detractors would be calling for mandatory plague baths. Yeah, very similar to Trump. I mean, we saw that literally happened with Trump and RFK Jr. when the pregnant women were taking the Tylenol.
Listen, let's just be honest with Danielle Smith in case she's watching the show. She can make any excuse she wants. If she doesn't get that question on that October 19th ballot, whether it's our question or the Forever Canada question, to separate Alberta from Canada, nobody's going to vote for her in the next election.
Troglodyte says, please welcome to take notes and take pictures long afterwards. Oh yeah, of your body and your lost belongings. Sam says, play the video of Danielle saying if you don't want to get beaten up or shot, don't break into people's homes. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
At least she said something. Dale Robinson says, nut zero. Yeah. Not net zero. Miss Alto says prioritizing a separation petition that you asked for, Tommy. Oh, weren't you? Oh, you weren't serious, and it was just an opportunity for you to grandstand. Got it. Yes, because now when things are actually getting real, well, it might actually backfire on him, and now he wants to say, no, it's not what I meant. It's not what I wanted.
Yeah, and again, all we want is for Danielle Smith to let democracy go forward. She doesn't have to support Alberta independence. Just make sure that question's on that October 19th ballot, and you can secure people that are supporting independence, their vote going forward for yourself.
Harmony says, the mind is powerful, and I believe we are given so many tools which are within but untapped. Deep sleep and high-quality consciousness. I have very deep sleep. I have coma sleep. Yeah, I have coma sleep.
I have to literally...
shake me to wake me up. I can't hear alarms. I can't hear earthquake alarms either. A little concerning, but that's the way I am. Sam says, Harmony, you crazy hippie. I do admire you. And we admire you too. And we do like when Harmony brings up these topics because nobody else brings them up. So thank you to Harmony.
I bring up crazy topics once in a while. You just don't want to hear them.
But not the helpful ones.
Okay.
Troglodyte says, my wife's family are Ukrainian. I learned to make pierogies. It's easy, fried with onions and topped with sour cream. They call them pudahe.
Yeah, absolutely. I love pierogies, and I like to fry onions with them, different meats with them. Put some taco seasoning on there too. Fantastic.
I mean, technically, I could make them. I'm not a bad cook. I just hate cooking.
No, you can't.
I hate cooking. But I'm good at it.
You're not good at making things from scratch, but you think you are. Am. No, you tried to make ice cream one time, and they turned out like freaking popsicles.
Because I didn't turn it long enough. Different. Now I learned. Sam says, I tried that with... the substance that makes you see things in the 70s. Now I'm all grown up.
Okay, let's go with 3 more comments, and then we're going to go to Alberta and the world because there's a lot of big news actually coming out that affects Alberta.
Oh, and Sam, happy birthday to Sam soon, says, honestly, Harmony, I turned 67 this Saturday. I still ski, motorcycle, and bicycle, and if I push it too far, I do a Tylenol. Good to go the next day. And Troglodyte says, happy pre-birthday, Sam. Great, you can keep rocking. That's my plan too. And I'll remember, because we're streaming on Saturday, so I'll try to remember.
Yeah.
But happy pre-birthday. Sam says, oh man, and she is a piece of work. It's a big piece of work.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, all these different personalities that I've kind of hated on because they called out Alberta independence and were against it are really helping Alberta independence in the long run now that we're going into the campaign season.
I mean, Nench Dion's meme literally said, it's time to go. Yes, it's time for Alberta to go. He's right.
Poilievre and the other national conservatives pointing out every reason why they weren't able to change any policies in Canada, and they're not going to be able to do it for the next 3 years now that Carney's has a majority government. The only way to change things is Alberta independence at this point. So thank you to them for pointing everything out wrong with Canada.
Exactly. Troglodyte says left can meme, and James B says then she is awesome, great spokesman for LSD and Alberta independence.
Okay, let's go into Alberta and the world here.
Yes.
And they're all related to the USMCA and the trade agreements that are kind of going on here. So let's get right into them.
Yeah, more elbows up.
Oh, the first one's not.
Yeah, Melissa says, quote, holy see, this immigration law firm is having to cancel in-person information events here in Canada because they are receiving threats and even ending threats because they are helping Canadians relocate to the United States. A lot of angry Canadians out there.
Well, and I think they were originally from Canada and they immigrated to the States themselves. And now they're trying to go back to Canada to educate people how to transition into the United States if that's what they want to do. And they're getting death threats for this. It's crazy. Elbows up.
We had 3 in-person events scheduled for the west coast of Canada. And I never thought that I would have to fear for my life or for the safety of my team because of what's happening in Canada currently. Unfortunately, we have made a decision due to death threats and all kinds of messages that have come our way, basically from people who don't want us to share the information that we're sharing. We're Canadian, we made the move, we wanted to come out to tell you how to make the move as well. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do it live. We were in Vaughan, we were feeling the same way, we tell you. We had 3 in-person...
Yeah, and they're simply trying to educate Canadians. If that's what they want to do, they can leave. The federal government doesn't like this. I guess liberals don't like this. And they even want... There's even talk of them wanting to put a toll if you want to leave the country permanently.
Yeah, if they're miserable, so you have to be miserable and stay within the insane asylum. The crazy people want you to be crazy too.
Exit tax on your home, exit tax on your CPP, exit tax on everything in order to get you not to leave.
Yeah, because everybody has to be miserable together.
If they're willing to do that on individual Canadians, imagine the extent they're going to go when an entire province tries to leave.
Ryan Gertison says, a new development has just occurred in regard to the trade negotiations. Supposedly, the U.S. wants an entry fee for Canada to even sit at the negotiating table. What a disaster. Elbows up.
The way this is being framed is a complete lie. When they're saying entry fee, what they're saying is they want concessions, not monetary concessions. They just want concessions. Mexico gave a ton of concessions and they are in a good position. They gave military concessions. They gave economic concessions. They gave all kinds of concessions. That's how they got to the table. And that's how they're going to end up getting a good deal.
Talks with the United States are at risk of derailing before they have even begun, as Radio-Canada has learned that the United States is demanding a so-called entry fee for Canada to even sit at the negotiating table. But Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's not prepared to make any more concessions.
We have multiple levels of contact. We worked through a series of issues. We understand.
They didn't make any concessions. The concessions they originally made, which Carney constantly quotes, actually violated the USMCA itself. So... absolutely crazy the way he tries to frame things. He's actually breaking the USMCA and framing it as we've given you a concession.
Understand what some of the what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. It's not a case of the United States dictates the terms. We have a negotiation. We can come to a mutually successful outcome. It will take some time, and we will take our time.
We also heard today from U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, who testified before lawmakers in his country. He says Canada's trade policy is growing more incompatible with President Trump's.
They've indicated that they want to be trading more. They want to have more trade agreements with more countries. They're doubling down on globalization when we're trying to correct for the problems of globalization. So those are two models that don't fit together very well. The president, his trade policy has not changed. He's not going to go back to the old situation where we had no tariffs and we just let foreign goods made by foreign workers come in without any fee to the detriment of domestic workers.
All right, we're going to start there with the power panel. Today we've got Cameron
And
Mott,
pause
who
it
is
for a
head
real
up.
second. And we heard Mark Carney said, well, we're in negotiations. No, you're not. You're at the pre-talk stage and you're trying to assemble a bunch of think tanks within Canada to try to appear like you're doing something to the Canadian people because you promised a deal over a year ago. Yeah. You're not even in actual negotiations at this point.
Nope.
Of Communications for former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Lisa Raitt is a former Conservative cabinet minister and one of the new appointees to the Prime Minister's Advisory Council. Jordan Leibniz is a former NDP strategist, and Stephanie Levitz is a senior parliamentary reporter for the Globe and Mail. It is good to see you all. Lisa, I want to start with you. Jamieson Greer seemed quite upset that Canada is acting as a sovereign nation and trying to look after its people. How do you approach this new dynamic of suddenly they want more concessions before they start talks, and they don't like the fact that we're trying to look after our own interests, it seems?
I know it's so frustrating. I understand, David, that one of the things that really
again the negotiations took an absolute nosedive about 6-7 months ago when they started putting out hit pieces against Trump and during I think it was the World Series at that point.
But they're literally not looking after their own people. If they were, they would be at the negotiating table and understanding that Canada has gotten off pretty easy for the longest time, even now within these negotiations and the initial tariffs that the U.S. wanted to impose.
I'm shocked that Mexico is able to negotiate better than Canada is at this point.
annoys the United States is this ban on American booze on our shelves, and it really gets their goat. But I was thinking about this, before we came on today. Even if the provinces reverse these bans, do you really think Canadians are actually going to buy it? I mean, are they going to be interested in purchasing these brands given what's happening? It'd be an interesting experiment. Let's just put it that way. But to answer your broader question, I mean, this is something that's going to have to be the strategy. Prime Minister and his cabinet, they're the ones that are closest to the issue right now, and they're going to have to figure out what buttons they're going to push. But the reality is that we have to go back and chat and talk with them about what kind of renewal or redoing of the agreement there's going to be. July 1 is the date that we're all working towards, but whether or not we're going to hit that date seems to be a mystery as well.
And pausing really quick, because thank you so much to JP Alberta
Thank you, JP.
for being here. I mean, she was basically just done. She was going to keep going around in circles. But JP Alberta first, thank you so much for that $10 super chat saying, full supporter of Danny Smith, but this press conference feels like the floor crossing to the PC in 2014. Her sovereign Alberta and a united Canada is another attempt to force a square peg in a round hole. And I do agree with that. And I will say, if through her words, she doesn't show it, but she does through her actions and through her defending of democracy and upholding democracy and the citizens' voices, then I'll judge her then.
She just needs a nudge. We nudged her last time. She tried to muddy the waters with the 9 questions, and then she cleared that up. So we got to apply pressure again. That's obvious. Let's go back to what's going on with these trade negotiations, though. Canada wants to go tit for tat. Over the years, they've taken advantage over the United States. So they have an amazing trade agreement. Nobody's going to say they're not. But the United States has woken up now, and they're not going to have that same agreement. They'll still get one of the best agreements on a global basis if they're willing to play ball. But if they think they're going to go tit for tat, I'm going to give you something, you're going to give me something, that's not the way it's going to work. That's not the way it worked with Mexico. But Mexico is having a lot of add-on benefits because of the new Western Hemisphere system he's trying to build and the economy. He wants to pull out of the global economy and build a strong Western Hemispheric economy. I could totally see Central or South America becoming the new Europe if we can get multiple successive U.S. presidents to really buy into the strategy.
And it was getting there a while ago before all the insane pink wave leftist communist dictatorships entered Latin America. It was heading towards becoming the new Europe. But Canada is not in a position to get too picky because I don't think Canada has realized, or even Carney has realized, that they're not the country they used to be, and they don't have the same positioning within the world or the same advantages for the U.S. as they maybe once did.
The U.S. has woken up is what's happened. They've let you take advantage of them for a long time, and not just Canada. They let Europe do it, Mexico do it, a lot of other countries. And now they're saying, we're not going to let you use us in the same fashion. We have to get something back. They're still going to give you a great deal. It's going to be better than trying to enter the Chinese economy that just wants to flood you with cheap goods and have you adopt communist policies like anti-free speech policies, digital ID, and digital currency.
And India, that just wants to send all its population to Canada. Ryan Gerritsen says, quote, from today, Canada is clearly being quite irritating when it comes to trade with the U.S. Bulk fruits and vegetables can't even come across the border because of packaging limitations. Ambassador Greer says he may have to retaliate against Canada in some form due to the provinces not allowing U.S. wine into the market.
Well, and this was within a U.S. hearing, so it gives you a perspective when the U.S. is talking internally what's going on and the kinds of questions they're asking and what do they want from the Canadians.
Now for 5 minutes. I would just want to say thank you so much, Ambassador Greer, for being here and being so responsive to me and my staff. And as you know, the top trade issue in my district in Northern New York 24, is the relationship between the U.S. and Canada. From tourism to agricultural markets, commodities to wine and manufactured goods, it's a huge issue. And Canada is a top market for my district. However, Canada has long discriminated against certain industries in my district, and that is what I want to focus on today. I got a couple quick things, but let's start with dairy, and we've talked about this before. As you recall, probably my district is the 5th largest dairy producing district in the entire United States. For years, Canada has rigged their system to prevent U.S. dairy producers from fair access to Canada's markets. This year's National Trade Estimate Report, as every year's report details, Canada's market manipulation and unfair treatment of U.S. producers is still evident. The U.S. has fought for years to gain access to the Canadian dairy market.
And yet, and I think especially Mark Carney with his climate ideologue agenda, wants to make sure that dairy cartel stays in place and outside dairy does not come into Canada en masse. Why? Because he wants to have lab-grown meat and lab-grown milk. So if he can use the dairy cartel to keep a high tariff and keep other dairy products off the market, there's going to be no competition for lab-grown meats and lab-grown milk, which is not good for humans.
Canada continues to violate USMCA and the spirit of its dairy commitments. Have you and your team raised these issues with our Canadian counterparts thus far, and have they been constructive in helping all of us resolve this issue with our friend to the north?
We have raised it repeatedly and frequently over the past year. Our Canadian counterparts have indicated as a general matter they're happy to talk to us about adjustments to USMCA and different things like that, but they have made no commitments on this front at this time.
Well, that's disappointing. So let's shift to wine, another issue detailed. Every Canadian province, with the exception of Alberta and Saskatchewan, has ceased distribution. Every Canadian province, with the exception of Alberta and Saskatchewan, has ceased distribution of U.S.
Again, I'm not going to be surprised if Trump tries to go around and just get a direct deal with Alberta and Saskatchewan. And if their premiers are willing to play ball, it's going to be interesting how that negotiation will work. If Alberta gets its independence, there is going to be a hell of a deal forged there, just so Trump can flip off the rest of national Canada that wants to play hardball here.
Wine and liquor products, including Ontario to the north. This is distorting the market, causing immense harm to our wine producers in the district. And have you and your team raised this issue as well with our Canadian counterparts? And have they been trying to help us? Have they been constructive in this issue, much like with the dairy issue?
Well, it's at the provincial level, right? So we hear from the federal government of Canada, well, it's the provinces, and then we do have two provinces who don't have this. That being said, I think we're kind of at the end of our rope in just asking for them to do this. Think about it this way. There are two countries that have retaliated economically against the United States in the past year, the People's Republic of China and Canada. So that's kind of the company that they're...
It's the same thing. They're the same one.
You can leave it there. The Chinese puppet is going along with Winnie the Pooh there. Go figure.
Again, it is China.
But that was interesting because you can really see the perspective from the Americans here. And when the Americans started tariffing Canada, they didn't violate the USMCA. When Canada did retaliatory tariffs and retaliatory actions, they directly violated the USMCA. That's why the Americans now want a sign of good faith negotiations through some concessions. And those concessions aren't monetary. They're literally concessions within different industries.
But now we'll go to read your comments, and then we'll head over to RU and Bailey. Rage Against Machine says rats are the government. Yes, there's many of them in BC, but particularly in Vancouver. Threadfast says no rats other than politicians in Alberta. Troglodyte says, I saw a rat in Vancouver near Canby Street. I thought it was a beaver. There's groups of them now.
Well, and there's huge possums as well.
Yes.
I mean, and they run around the streets of Vancouver with families.
And raccoons.
Yeah.
Not many beavers, though.
Oh, we got a super chat there. Oh, JP.
Thank you so much, JP Alberta First, for the $5 super chat saying, does nobody find it sad that the normalized term for dairy in Canada is that it is a cartel? Well, that's what they made it into.
It's an East Coast cartel as well, because if you see these other provinces try to develop their dairy industry, the federal government's going to try to shut it down.
Exactly. And they've already tried a bunch of times. But thank you so much, JP Alberta First. Sam says, Trog, you should see the rats in Ottawa. Every underground parking lot all over the place, rats. And I'm not talking about the human rats on the hill. Those two. And they're both fat and gross.
Well, and I will say raccoons can be absolutely vicious.
You hate them.
I have scars all over my body and my face, on my foot from when I was small. I was surrounded by raccoons in the winter because they get skinny, and then they attacked me. And then when I was older, I always seemed to get surrounded by raccoons in Stanley Park.
But it was funny that you were so scared. I'm scared of geese because one chased me.
If you got attacked numerous times by raccoons, you'd be scared too.
Yes. Geese have gone after me. Troglodyte says, lol, Sam, my dad was RCMP back in the 50s. He's guarded them in Ottawa. Justin GB says, you will eat the crickets, guy. Don't eat Nat's cows. Yes, exactly. I'll make you eat the crickets. And my cows can be best friends.
We have a $2 super chat there.
Sam, thank you so much for the $2 super chat saying hello. Hello, Sam. And thank you for being here. You've been commenting really interesting things as well. So thank you for that too. But yes, Jess, he will eat the... Have you tried crickets? I made you try crickets already, didn't I?
I'll eat your cows.
No, my cows are going to be best friends, and then we'll eat the cricket.
I'm not eating crickets. You sound like Carney. You're not going to eat my cows. You're going to eat the crickets. The cows are for the globalists.
They're cute. Troglodyte says the politicians. Edward says lots of space cadets in Nova Scotia. Sam says, my dad always called the cattle the terrified. He had a point. If you look at a cow in the face, it looks terrified. Yes, because of what humans do to them.
Yeah.
I'm not a vegetarian or vegan, don't get me wrong, but they're cute. I like cute animals.
Well, the amount that they can scam through this space program, we're talking trillions of dollars. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're secretly trying to launch satellites off the back of SpaceX and say, oh, we're the ones that we got them in. They'll say we got them into space, and they will fail to mention that SpaceX is the one that got them up there.
But back to the cattle point and the cow point. I do agree, though, that more people should know where their food comes from. More people should see the process of slaughtering an animal and cutting it up and where the food actually comes from, and actually using most of the parts of the animal to actually say thank you to the animal for feeding us. And I think that has been long forgotten when people don't even know where milk comes from, where meat comes from, what farms they come from. I think that's very sad.
Well, it's absolutely...
It's a disconnection from reality.
Well, and the way the government wants to calculate these climate policies, say you have 5 acres of farmland, they want to calculate every single raindrop that hits that farm and then charge you for that water, which is crazy. But if it's vegetables, they don't want to charge you. They don't need to make that calculation and that extra tax. They're trying to get rid of meat.
Rich Diane, hellos. Thank you for being here. Says, we moved out of town and started our little farm. Layers, broilers, turkeys, sheep, and pigs on
fantastic.
10 acres, all organically raised. This is healthcare. Exactly. And I also do concur and agree with that. And being able to be actual self-sustaining and having that knowledge that has been long forgotten about and taken out of both schools, but also families in general. Families don't know how to live and subsist if they weren't living in cities.
Well, it's starting to happen here in Mexico. We know somebody that lives rurally. And they came into town to visit, and we were talking to them, and they said the town's just not having children anymore. And he inherited the land from his uncle, but he didn't know how to actually farm the land or raise the cattle like his uncle. And farming is becoming a forgotten thing, even here in Mexico. It's just starting that transition now.
Exactly. He said there's only 8 kids in the school in the little town there. There used to be about 30 at least. I mean, it's a teeny tiny town, but that was worrying to me.
A lot of people don't know about the demographic change within Latin America. You made a few videos on it. It's been a bit of a passion project for you, but the United Nations completely lied and covered up what was going on with birth rates in Latin American countries. And now that it's been revealed, we have worse birth rates than most Asian countries like Japan and South Korea, which are some of the worst.
Exactly. It's not just happening in Canada, and it's not just happening in certain nations. It's globalized.
Well, and the reason they covered up the birth rates, I believe, why the UN did this, they were trying to get massive amounts of immigrants from these countries into Western countries, and they didn't want to alarm anybody. So they tried to make it seem, like there's high birth rates in these countries. We can take the hardest working people from those countries and import them into ours, and nobody will be hurt. Well, people are being hurt.
Exactly. Harmony says, as a very young child, my father and mother had 100 milking cows to one when they separated. That's a lot of cows.
That's a lot of work too.
Yes. James B says, people need to go to jail for this kind of fraud. If the RCMP don't do their job, I'm afraid the folks with the torches and pitchforks will.
Well, I don't think so. Canadians are just too polite, and that's part of the problem.
They've been lulled into politeness.
Yeah. And like here in Mexico or other South American countries, there's a healthy fear the government has of their citizens because they will rebel at a certain point. Western countries just don't have that anymore.
Yeah. Troglodyte says, reasons why we run a deficit while taxed to death. James B says, did the government do a joint effort with Fisher-Price? And Sam says, let's see, massive country, massive resources, massive water, and we can't own a home and can barely afford groceries, but apparently that's perfectly acceptable. And it's perfect. It's the way things should be. And you should just get used to it.
Yeah.
And receive your little grocery rebate in June and be happy with that and continue to depend on the government as they try to implement UBI, Universal Basic Income.
By the end of Carney's reign here, people in China are going to have more rights than Canadians because at least they can have farm animals on their land and things like that.
Some of them.
So...
Troglodyte says, it's the plan, Sam. If you build it, they will come and take it. Exactly.
Yeah, don't build too much.
No. or nothing worthwhile, unfortunately. Sam says, to be fair, the U.S. stole basketball, hockey, and the aero team that built Apollo from Canada. Yeah, but they did better things with them.
Yeah, and all the medals in the Olympics as well.
Oh, yeah, that too. Sanjali says, after today, Danny is done. We kind of had the discussion earlier, but I think there's caveats, but still we have to keep an eye.
Yeah, we got to keep her honest. That's all. We got to put pressure on her when she needs pressure applied by reminding her we are a mass of people, and the only thing that we want is that referendum question on the ballot. We don't care about your other 9 questions.
The only thing that should be done is democracy and upholding democracy.
You're not going to convince us with your other 9 questions. Even if you have the 9 questions, you're somehow able to take action on a federal level, which is impossible. Even if you did all that, without that referendum question, nobody cares.
Mm-hmm. Troglodyte says, trust no one, the X-Files. Yeah, exactly.
The new X-Files looks horrible, by the way.
Yes. Troglodyte says, the entry fee is bullshido. From the entry fee?
The
for importing. To be able to go into talks, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
We just talked about it.
Yeah, but it's because Canada broke the USMCA. They never bring up that talking point. Now the Americans want an entry fee, not a monetary entry fee. They want concessions, non-monetary concessions. Mexico gave multiple of these, militarily as well as economically, and that's why they're going in trade negotiations as we speak, and it seems to be going very well.
Although here the press wants to say they're not, but
as long as you don't read the Mexican media,
exactly.
They're really biased against Sheinbaum. I don't like Sheinbaum either, but I'm going to call out how I see it with the negotiations.
Here it's either going great or it's going terrible.
Yeah.
Sam says, booking a flight from Calgary to Ottawa for late September to hang with my son for a week or two, $600, $900 if you have a carry-on and suitcase.
God, we were looking at plane tickets going into Calgary. It was $600 as well. Mm-hmm. And that was after taxes.
But if we wanted to
round trip from Mexico City, which is deep within inside Mexico, all the way direct flight to Calgary.
It's the
cheaper if we don't. I think it was like $500 if you don't do a direct flight.
Mm-hmm. It's the plane cartel in Canada as well. Edward says they have Sasquatch in Texas. You would know about that. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Sasquatch portals, because there's a whole underground cave system there that goes to inner Earth. That's the big thing.
What's inner Earth?
You don't know? Okay, I can't talk to somebody that doesn't even know what inner Earth is at this point. Inner Earth is where.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I asked.
That's where all these beings live.
Okay. Do you live there?
That's where the UFOs come from as well.
Maybe we can go live there. Sam says you can fly the same distance for half the no carry-on, no bag price in the U.S. for the same. Yeah. And the flights within the U.S. are super cheap. Flights within Mexico are super cheap.
Yeah.
To go to the north of the country, so like Chihuahua, Sinaloa. I mean, not that I recommend going there. It's full of cartels. But it's about, what would be the equivalent? $60?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a quick flight, but still. Harmony says, when one's behavior is anger and hate, the outcome is aggression, and the score on the map of consciousness is 150. The highest level is 700 to 1,000. Address your conditioned mind. I agree with the last part, yeah. Troglodyte says, everything is big in Texas. Sasquatches.
Yeah. Well, and I think we not only need to start pressuring Danielle Smith, we need to start pressuring other politicians that are within her circle and let them know, you don't have to side with independents. You just have to have that, make sure democracy goes forward with that one referendum question. And we will vote for you going forward no matter what happens.
Harmony says he is so deceptive and either he doesn't know, but trying to pull the wool over Canadians' eyes.
Yeah, and I don't think he's doing a very good job. He's trying to evoke emotion within liberal Canadians. And he's telling lies about what the Americans want. It was very interesting. I was watching... God, what was it? I think it was Northern Perspective today, and they had a guest on there. And they were talking about the Americans by law have to release every year their trade relations with other countries, what's going right, what's going wrong, all the points. And that gives a certain level of transparency. It's very interesting when you look into the trade relations with Canada, because they specifically point out that they've violated the North America Free Trade Agreement multiple times. And the retaliation tariffs they're putting on the United States are, again, violating the USMCA. Canada doesn't have to put out those kinds of reports.
Edward,
That's why it's easy for Carney to just lie out of his ass.
Yeah. Edward says, Trailer Park Boys move to Texas. That would be great. That would have been great.
Well, you got Clyde Do Something moving down there.
Sam says, and this is not legal advice, Sam says, yeah, get arrested on December 23rd because Christmas in jail is the best. And Chocolate says, Pinochet helicopter tours. JP Alberta First says, would that be a season or just a standalone movie? Edward says, a season for the Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Rage Against the Machine says all the money is leaving. All the money has left. And the one that hasn't is trying to soon and quickly leave Canada.
You're subsisting in Alberta off the crumbs the government has handed you, and those crumbs are about to be swept off the table. Like, they may hand you a few more crumbs through an MOU and a pipeline to get you to vote to stay in Canada. Hopefully, Albertans are smarter than that, and we're going to vote for independence.
Marilyn McCall, hello, says Cartel Carney wants to ensure Quebec, I'm guessing, stays.
Cool. Yeah, Quebec's ready to leave as well. And if you take away that remittance payment from Alberta, they've been preparing since 1995. It's very interesting how they've internalized their economy and how they've slowly been preparing for separation in a much different style tactic than Alberta has.
Mm-hmm. Sam says, tell Clyde your today interview, so Clyde do something. He really must visit Possum Kingdom Lake when he gets to Texas. They actually pull the gas from the ground and pipe it to your cottage. Too funny.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Fantastic.
Well, let him know. Maybe he can make a video.
Yeah.
Edward says, Canada geese are cobra chickens. Yes, they are. Horrible at
He hates geese. I don't mind them at all.
Because one time we were walking, because in Vancouver, they would walk down the streets and be mean and hiss at people. And I was walking the dog by myself and it started chasing. Our dog got curious and started barking at the thing. And the thing got angry and it started chasing me and the dog. Our dog can't run really fast, so I had to pick her up and run away with the dog as the geese chased us. Goose, whatever they're called.
You get a bigger dog, the geese won't bother you.
And they'll eat the geese. Sam says I was attacked by Canada geese for a bag of chips. Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's seagulls, too.
If you ever go out to Granville Island, they have signs all over the place. Seagulls will attack if you have any food. So make sure you eat in the indoor food court. They have outdoor food courts, but the seagulls will literally swoop down, hit you in the head, and take your food.
You got a donut taken out of your hand.
Yeah, full donut.
Chocolate says, my ex is mad cow. Justin GB says, don't milk the cow with one teat. It's not a teat. Thank you for the advice. Good advice. Edward says, barbecue chicken chips? No. So, hold on. Chocolate says, they use geese to guard Scottish whiskey distilleries. I betcha. That would be a more useful military than what they're trying to do in Canada right now. Just arm the geese.
The geese can protect maple syrup.
Oh, yeah. Sam says, geese in Saskatchewan literally round up the chickens and move them into the coop. Well, at least they're useful.
Yeah.
In Vancouver, they're just scary. Chocolate says, I sport farm for a friend who cuts hay, tedding, raking, and baling or bowling. Baling?
Baling.
Bowling. Okay.
Baling.
Sure. Sorry. Well, a friend was telling us that he had never done anything like that, and he was learning how to have to cut grass and hay and feed it to the cows, and then he got too much, so he got someone else to take care of the cows, and he just kind of manages the whole place now.
Yeah.
Edward says, I'm on Mexican radio. I didn't get that one. Sam says, Danielle has already said that our question gets counted first, and if it's a yes, then the rest won't matter. But hopefully she keeps on that.
But she also said if the stay continues on, that she may have to go to the other ballot question, which was from
Forever Canada.
Forever
Canadian.
So it seems like that's Danielle Smith's backup plan if the court system keeps staying it. She's not willing to go against the court system. I think she made that kind of clear today. But it seems like she's made an alternate route because she knows her political future rides on this.
Sam says, my partners and I are compiling data. We'll send it out post-Alberta judgment. Cool. Don't know what that means either, but that was the last one. So now, and we're running late. So now we're heading over to RUMBLE. We will read your comments over on RUMBLE as well.
Hey, we got some big stories. The big story I had been talking about is the UK is trying to have a lifetime ban on cigarettes for anybody born after 2009. Yeah. And this is something that I could see Canada trying to implement as well as Europe. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Edward says it's from a song. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and follow us over to Rumble. We'll see you over there in a minute.
And we are trying to get to 100 likes per stream, so please like the stream before you go over to RUMBLE. See you there. There's a 30-second wait screen, and then we pop up again.
Let's get ready to